Breakaways into the Republic of Ireland. 3 minutes and 25 is the gap. So after 2.5 days in the north, we are into the Republic of Ireland. And last time a Grand Tour was here, 1998. It was the Tour de France starting in Dublin. It wasn't a great year for cycling, we have to say, given the Festina affair and everything. What are your memories, though, of the crowds and the start on that day, and how do they compare to what you've seen on the way in this morning, Sean?
Well, I think the crowds we've had in the past 2 days have been greater than we had for the Tour de France back in '98. It's just amazing the number of people that supported at the stages in Belfast, and we can see again today it's going on. The crowds are coming out at the finish here in Dublin. You know, the crowds are gathering. It's going to be a spectacular run-in once again. And there was a lot of talk about that in the last number of weeks about down south. It wasn't as, you know, the buzz wasn't the same as up north. We'll have to wait and see, because now we've just come into the Republic. Of course, the spillover from Northern Ireland is going to be there for a while. But I think certainly the people will come out and support, because cycling is, you know, just such on such a buzz at the moment. Everybody wants to ride a bike. It seems to be the new golf, and everybody is, you know, taking part in these leisure events. So I think they will all come out and support the event today, and it looks like so far it's going to be a huge success down south also.
Hello to everybody watching Down Under in Australia. Michael Matthews in pink. Orica Greenedge dominating the race for the first couple of days. Of course, they won the team time trial on stage 1. Matthews in an 8th place finish yesterday. Good enough to get himself into pink. He leads the race on what we're told is Mother's Day down south. A nice day for him to be in pink. We've seen lots of work done at the front of the peloton. Orica Greenedge controlling things. Happy Mother's Day, Mum. There you go. Nice little shout back home. Michael Matthews, 23 years of age. 8th yesterday, as I said. 6th Australian to wear the Maglia Rosa. Other Aussies that have worn pink, well, easy to guess one of them, Kittel Evans, who's hoping to wear pink at the end of the finish line in Trieste this year. Also Richie Porte, after that massive split in the peloton on the stage into the centre of Italy a couple of years ago. Bradley McGee, Brett Lancaster, who's riding this race, of course, as part of the Orica Greenedge team, and Robbie McEwen, now retired as well. Hello in the meantime to everybody watching home for Giorgio Cecchinel, Neo-Pro riding for Neri Sotoli. Rider from Vittorio Veneto. The race will pass up near his home. As you can see today, we've been riding for just over 2 hours. Italian flag out there with the Irish flag on the roads. You can see the peloton just about to make the border crossing themselves. It's all very relaxed a little further back. Thankfully, at the moment, they're getting some sunshine. And I think after yesterday, that will be a very, very welcome piece of news, Sean, because with this weather the way it is today, yesterday, the wind blowing a bit as well, having to wear all those clothes, sweating, and then having those wet clothes underneath, it's not looking good for the next week or so, because we might see a few chest infections, bits of cold, and in the first week of a Grand Tour, you really don't want that.
Well, that is the problem for the riders. You know, they are so fit, they pick up a cold very easily, and the weather conditions here hasn't been good for them the last couple of days, and especially yesterday, although we did see they seemed to be in the rain all the time yesterday, where at the finish line in Belfast it cleared off. We got maybe 15-20 minutes, a bit of sunshine, dried out a bit, and then it started to rain again. But you know, we can see out here today again, you know, it does warm up a bit, you get a bit of sunshine, then they're going to get showers, and that's not good, because you cool down very quickly. And we've seen on the way down here this morning the temperature drop by 3 or 4 degrees, and that is a lot when you get a big shower for 15-20 minutes, and that is the danger for the riders to catch a cold. And we could be hearing some of that as the days go on, the next 2 or 3 days. Some of the riders could, you know, come back from Ireland to Italy with some, you know, cold, and carrying that is not good, as we know. It just takes that little percentage off you, and that's what you know, takes the edge from you.
Some housekeeping from yesterday then. Winner was Marcel Kittel, of course. No jersey for him after his team's performance in the team time trial, not leaving him with enough a gap, despite the bonus seconds, to get up there and fight for the pink jersey. The only real danger in a sprint finish to the man who is holding the jersey today, Michael Matthews, would be Alessandro Petacchi, I think, 8 seconds behind. But I think Matthews showed that he's certainly in good enough form to get a placing in the sprints, pick up some more points. If Petacchi was to miraculously win the stage, or even come second, then he'd be the man, the only danger man, to really go into pink today, wouldn't he?
Yes, but that's always It's always a little worry, you know, for Ulrika Greenedge. They want to hold on to the jersey, so they will have to be a bit careful at the end. But with Michael Matthews, you know, he is very good in the sprint. Yesterday, he got to the final corner in a very good place, but just didn't have it. I think, you know,
we've had a fall. The crowd getting involved. Sorry to interrupt you, Sean. Yeah. Problem for one of the Neri Sottoli riders. The rider in question, I can tell you, is number 136. The man who was in the break yesterday, Andrea Fedi. Oh, the chain's gone as well. But the fact, well, it looks as though it's been a really nasty mechanical look. The tyre has come off the rim as well, Sean.
Yes. How did it happen? Did he make a move when the tyre come off, or did he just you know, touch some of the spectators? Maybe we'll see another shot of it.
Well, there's one of the security guards there as well, very, very close to the action. We might be able to get a quick look at what happened. We can go over to the right. Well, a couple of riders in the way, and the way the crowd moved back there, you suggest that perhaps one of the crowd had maybe stuck a foot out or got him unintentionally involved. And Andrea Fedi, understandably not happy. He'll have sore legs after the breakaway yesterday.
Yes, well, it seems to be that there was a slowdown in the peloton, and the riders behind just braking suddenly, and maybe when he just braked heavily, the tyre came off, and that's the way he seemed to slide off the road. I don't think it was a touch of a spectator.
Sean, you were saying yesterday, Petacchi today, perhaps the danger.
Well, he's always a danger. You know, if Petacchi really wants to go for it, he has the team there, first of all. That is something you have to be careful with. So, you know, within the Greenedge team, Ulrika Greenedge, they will be out just taking control of the situation. And, of course, with Matthews, they were trying to keep him up there and keep in pink and hold on to it for another day.
Oh, again, we have the doubt as to whether Petacchi, the man in question, will actually want to sprint. He said yesterday that his job was to keep Rigoberto Urán safe, and that for once Omega Pharma Quick-Step were actually fully behind a general classification man. Yesterday the evidence seemed to suggest that. We will see how it goes on today in Dublin. Great to see the Irish flags out, great to see pink along the route, and also great to see the Colombian national jersey out there in the break as well. Miguel Angel Rubiano, man at the back of this little bit here, and we've got an intermediate sprint coming up. Going to be taken by Mr. Cialinghi again. He seems to want all the prizes out there at the minute.
He's getting greedy.
Very, very greedy. He's already taken, by the way, both King of the Mountains. Both climbs came very, very early on today during the stage. That was the Market Hill Summit and then Fuse Forest. Cialinghi taking points here on the intermediate sprint at Dundalk. Well, welcome back. 101.2 kilometres to go. 3 minutes and 20 is the gap between those out in front and the chasing peloton. There's certainly no panic about things at the minute. Riding into Dublin, it's an intermediate sprint coming up. There's all sorts of points and bonus seconds to be given out. Cannondale dragging it along. A couple of riders from Sky wanting to take those points. Of course, points jersey is a big, big aim for a lot of riders here. Oh, and in the gang, we've had a crash behind. Crash behind as the rest of the points are taken. And just behind, we've had a crash. Rider taken down is Wilco Kelderman. That is not good for the overall. Androni Giocattoli rider at the minute down as well. The intermediate sprint really, really contested, but it's causing big, big problems behind, Sean.
Yes, it is causing problems behind. We can see that the sprint was, you know, really pushed on there by Cannondale, and of course the equals crash on the rear because they were going at a very fast rate through the corners.
Well, here we go. The rider down for Belkin is their GC man. Problems though as well for the Androni rider. Androni rider in question is Manuel Belletti, and that's not good news because he's their sprinter. Well, Belletti at the minute having his elbow had a look at, and it isn't looking great, I can say. The doctor's having a little look. Belletti looks in real pain. It looks as though he's hit the ground very, very hard indeed. I'm not sure there's much movement there, Sean.
Oh, looks to be, yes, in a lot of pain here, and they're checking it out. Doesn't look good for him at the moment.
Manuel Belletti, a winner of a stage at the Giro a couple of years ago, right in front of the Marco Pantani statue as the cameras are ushered away. Belletti visibly moved to tears there. Let's hope and cross our fingers that he's okay and can carry on. Plenty of time to recover for today, but not really figuring in the main part of yesterday's sprint. 137 is Mauro Finetto, changing bikes. Looks like he was involved in a little pile-up at the back as well. Quick bike change and a bit of excitement, inverted commas, when perhaps they didn't need it. There's a rather novel mudguard there for Martin Cilingi, keeping that blue jersey nice and safe. And he'll be hearing on the radio now, I'm sure, all the commotion in the team car behind, because it was one of his team that went down. Now Belletti going to try and get on his bike. Look at that. Big piece of bandage and gauze on that left knee. So it's not just the left elbow that's had a problem. For Manuel Belletti today, is it just a case of getting through the stage, trying to stay on and see how he recovers for Bari?
Well, he would be hoping to do that, but at the moment it's not looking good for him, because he seems to be, you know, really suffering with the injuries. Still with just under 100 kilometres to go, he's lost a lot of time here to get back. But of course, we've seen that riders can stop 3-4 minutes on the side of the road, and then they just get back into the cavalcade of cars and get in there. So it will all depend on his injury. If he's not suffering too much, we might see him make him back into the peloton. And of course, with the rest day tomorrow, he have a bit of time to recover.
Well, we've just been informed through our producers at the Eurosport headquarters in Paris that you may not be seeing all of the images that we're talking over at the moment. So we apologise for that. We know that everybody's doing their best to rectify those picture problems, and we'll do our best to try and talk you what's happening through the race, even though you might not be able to see it at the minute. We are seeing an image of those 5 men in the breakaway, but behind we know that there's been a bit of a smash involving the likes of Belletti, who's injured. We're going for a quick break while we try and sort out those picture problems for you. Back in a minute here on the Giro d'Italia. Keep it Eurosport, the home of cycling. Very warm welcome back. We're informed through our producers that we are, and you are, hopefully seeing pictures of the Giro d'Italia now as it rolls through the Irish streets. Apologies for the picture loss. All sorts of power problems apparently causing those. It's raining here at the finish line in Dublin, but nice and sunny out there on the roads at the minute. This is how the Giro d'Italia stands on stage 3. Michael Matthews in pink. Of course, it's first Giro d'Italia, only his second day and wears pink. A very, very special start for him. 6th Australian to wear the maglia rosa, I said. He leads by 3 seconds over his teammate Luke Durbridge, who's in the white jersey today for the best young rider. Ivan Santaromita, the Italian champion, is third. Svein Tuft and Peter Veining, of course. Orica Green Edge filling all of those top 5 spots, thanks to their excellent team time trial, of course. Young rider standing, well, Michael Matthews tops that as well, but of course he's wearing the pink jersey for the overall leader, so Luke Durbridge looks after that jersey for him today. Julian Vermote of Omega Pharma Quickstep in third, Yannick Eisen and Pavel Poljanski in 5th as it stands. Salvatore Puccio down there in 10th for Team Sky. Remember, it was the second stage last year when Team Sky won the team time trial on his debut that he also wore pink. So 2 years running we've had debutants wearing that pink jersey very early on in their careers. As for red, the maglia rossa is worn by Marcel Kittel at the minute. He took 50 points for his stage win yesterday. Today's stage is another of those brand new Category A stages where it's very heavily weighted in favour of the sprinters. So we shall see if Kittel can win today on what is his birthday, 26 today. Martin Cilingi, well, he's taken both of the climbs today, leads 12 points. A 7-point lead over, and 9-point lead, pardon me, over Andrea Fedi. And Cilingi will wear the blue jersey again tomorrow. Or I should say the day after, rest day tomorrow. It's going to be very, very interesting. I know a few of you asking on Twitter as we see the team's overall standing by time. Orica Green Edge, again, leading the team prize at the moment. So what about this transfer tomorrow? It's going to be hard work on a lot of the riders. We're talking at least a 3-hour flight down to Bari, Sean, and this very much favours the big teams, this sort of start, doesn't it? Because you've seen the smaller pro-continental teams not having all of their buses here. This is the finish line at the minute, by the way. A lot of this logistics is very, very hard work going to Bari. It's 2,700 kilometres to the next stage, and the organisation will have been planning this for a couple of years, won't they?
Yes, well, difficult start for everybody, for the organisation especially, you know, to plan all this and get everything over here. As we can see, all the finish structure, but for the riders as well, it's demanding. Although they have an early rest day, 3 days of racing and then a rest day tomorrow, but they've got to travel. We must not forget that, and it is a long journey. You know, a good 3-hour plane journey, and they're, you know, getting out tomorrow morning. So it's difficult. It does upset, you know, when you get into the rhythm of the race. You would prefer to continue on for the first week and then have your rest day after the end of the first week. That would be better. But yeah, the teams, the riders, they don't have any say in that. It's the organisation decide where they go to start and you know, where they start their Giro, and you know, you have to do with that. And we've seen yesterday, of course, you know, the teams. Some of the teams have, you know, maybe a smaller vehicle here. They don't have that big team bus. The ones who haven't got the big budget to do that, and then the big teams, of course, they have a number of buses, so they can send one here. But the other backup buses, team cars, there'll be a lot of them on standby waiting for the riders to get back down to Bari tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow evening, as you say, it tends to favour the big teams, this, in terms of logistics. I know that some teams are going to use 3 or 4 sporting directors, the director sportif on this race. Some of them have been waiting down in Italy for the first couple of stages. They've been preparing things down there. So the aim, I imagine, for the teams is to make the transfer as easy and manageable as possible, isn't it, Sean, to get them nice there and rested? I know that a lot of the journalists are leaving very early tomorrow morning on an 8 a.m. flight. You imagine that the riders are going to be given a time to rest once they get there. They'll get them perhaps down there mid-morning tomorrow?
Yes, well, they will get down, you know, if they get away in the morning, they'll be down mid-morning, so they have a lot of time to rest in the afternoon. Hopefully do a little bit of a ride on your bike, because they need to do that on the rest day in the Tour of France, or on the Tour of Italy, for example. The Tour of France the same. They have the rest day after the first week, but everybody ride their bike, and it will be the same situation for tomorrow. They will want to do some little bit on their bike, so they'll have time tomorrow to do that afternoon. So yeah, it's for the team, the teams to get back, it would be a very difficult one, because, you know, to get down with the vehicles, it would not be possible. So they have to, you know, have the second backup of all vehicles down there, and that's what, you know, they have organised. So yeah, that is for the teams. It has been more difficult maybe for the smaller teams, but and as you said, director sportifs as well. Luckily for the riders, you know, it will be a 3-hour plane journey, so they will be there tomorrow and have time to recover in the afternoon before we go on to start the stage day 4 in Italy.
They'll be looking forward to some sunshine down in Bari. Another sprint day expected, a circuit race around the town in Apulia. That comes up on Tuesday. So Giro d'Italia with 3 rest days this time. And this is our final stage in Ireland. 2 minutes and 9. Well, this gap is quite small to say that there are 92.8 kilometres still to go, Sean.
Yes, it is small, and I think the little bit of up in pace there we see for the sprint a number of kilometres back, that has, you know, probably taken down the advantage, but it is a very, you know, slim advantage at the moment. And we can see here the bunch is, you know, rolling along at a slower pace. The problem is today we were expecting a fast stage, but it looks like the headwind is, you know, most of the time a headwind, so that's slowing things down. And of course out front for our breakaway, it's a difficult one when you've got a headwind, and the bunch can see that it's just over 2 minutes, so they're just knocking off the pace as well, and they're going to allow them hang out there for as long as possible.
The 2010 under-23 world champion Michael Bling Matthews, already a Grand Tour stage winner at the Vuelta a España a few years ago. Now a pink jersey wearer, the Maglia Rosa in the Giro d'Italia. Gap has gone out slightly again to just above 2 minutes. In fact, whilst you're away, you didn't really miss anything apart from a few natural breaks in the peloton. I think it was decided en masse that this was the time to hang on and do what you needed to do. In the meantime, shoe covers are being thrown as a present to some of the spectators watching. Breakaway just getting rid of their wet weather gears. We mentioned Yonder Goroy, we mentioned Miguel Angel Rubiano. Chilinghi we saw yesterday, the 37-year-old who's out there, taken maximum points on all 4 of the 4th category King of the Mountains climbs we've seen in this Giro d'Italia up to now. Rider from Cali is the champion at the back. Rubiano hasn't actually won a stage of any race since the stage 7 at the Vuelta a Colombia back in 2011. His Colombian champions win came a few weeks ago, actually. Helps social media and the internet votes to try and helped choose what his national champions jersey would look like. They went for the fantastic traditional look. It starts to rain again, just as they've got rid of those shoe covers and the wet weather gear. Rubiano delivered his first win for Team Colombia since he changed teams to that national champions day out in Cartagena. He outsprinted a 13-man group on that day. It broke away around half the way through of the 10-lap pan-flat circuit. Rubiano taking the national champions win ahead of Lamprimerida's winner Anacona and the former Team Colombia rider Juan Pablo Suarez. 9th career win for the 29-year-old Rubiano. Goodbye to the pink for now. Important that Matthews and the rest keep warm. The way Matthews is sprinting, Sean, the way that he's getting over the climbs fairly well, could you see him as a realistic contender for the red jersey at the end of the race, points jersey?
Well, I think yes. When you look at the points are available here. Of course, it's weighted a bit more for the real good sprinters this year with the change in the intermediate sprint points available. But Matthews, he can get all the climbs quite well, and he's going to be there on the sprints. When you look at the riders are here, he's going to be always there in the top places. So the points classification, I think he is capable of winning it. The question is, how far is he going to go on this race? Is he going to go all the way? That we'll have to wait and see, because the team, they have a plan. What's the rest of the season, for him? So it's something we've seen in the Giro in the past. Some riders, they just use it and they're thinking about the Tour of France. And if that's the case, a younger rider, we could see him maybe not going all the way in this race.
Oh, we've heard more than a few whispers that Marcel Kittel won't be riding the whole race. He's already joined a select club as a stage winner in all 3 Grand Tours. That he did yesterday. He took welter stage wins in Spain in 2011. Tour de France success last year in 2013, of course. And this year, looking for another birthday gift. Could he join Svein Tuft by winning on his birthday today? He's 26 years of age today, Marcel Kittel, so happy birthday to him, as we see Adriano Malori now riding for the Movistar team, the former Lampre man, and a man we'd expect to see later on in the race when we get to the individual time trials as well. Lunchtime for the peloton in the meantime. What sort of things do you get in these musettes, Sean? Again, for those who might be following us on Eurosport Cycling for the first time, what do riders eat on the bike during a race like this?
Well, there's so much energy bars available now, energy gels. 90% of the feed, the musette would be like that. Some of the teams that do make up some of the, I suppose, call them the traditional food, for another word. In the earlier days, the masseurs, they had to make up a lot more because there weren't as many of these energy bars available. So they would maybe take a piece of bread roll, take the centre out, cut it in half and put a bit of cheese into a piece of ham. A bit of rice cake as well. That's something that the riders like. And of course, when you're doing a 3-week tour and you have to eat the energy bars, the energy gels all the time, you do get, tired of them eating them every day. So they like something like that, something different. Yeah, when you look at the teams preparing the stuff, they do that all the time. But it's only a small percentage of the daily intake of the riders. The energy bars, the gels will be the big ones.
Oh, we talked earlier on when we were talking about the transfers about the advantages for the big budget teams, the likes of Movistar, who we see on our screens now, and a Mega Pharma Quick Step as well, their white and black jersey disguised by that black raincoat at the back there. This is where the team chefs come into their own. It's quite a new role, isn't it? It's come in the last few years when science has come in, and certainly a new role in terms of the amount of money that's spent. You see these mobile kitchens now that follow the race everywhere, and chefs have to be inventive to try and keep the riders interested in intaking the right things.
Yes, the chefs are, a very common thing now in a lot of the teams. If you look at, the teams taking part in this race, there's probably at least, half a dozen teams, if not more, have their own chef. When they go to the Tour of France, I think all the teams would have their own chef. And it's a variety of reasons to make it, interesting for the riders, to make something that's tasty, but something, that is good for the riders as well. The other thing is, I suppose the meat that they're using, you know, they can't trace it. We've heard all about that in the past, and if you go to the hotel and, you know, they are supplying the meat for you, don't know, you can't trace that exactly. Where the teams, if they're doing it themselves, well, then they know where they're getting it, so there is traceability there. That is the I suppose that is the most important one, and that's why, you know, the more the teams are starting to use their own chef and do their own cooking, you know, in most races. And it's not only the Giro and the Tour of France. Paris-Nice this year, we see a lot of teams as well have their own chef and their own unit going around to each hotel.
Oh, on the motorway in Paris-Nice this year, we seem to be endlessly behind mobile kitchens and team chefs. Conversation going on a little further up the road in the breakaway. Giorgio Cecchinel there, rider from Veneto. Second day in a row that Neri Sottoli have a rider in the break. Same could be said of Lotto as well, and Belkin. And Colombia. Interesting which riders are going to get themselves in the break, and which teams want to do it every day, of course. We talked yesterday about the reasons for Belkin and Lotto in particular. They haven't really got too many men who yet expect to challenge. We know that Wilco Kelderman is an up-and-coming climbing talent, and a very interesting one at that. But the teams who aren't expecting to get too much in terms of GT, maybe not even stage wins for the first week until we get to the medium mountain stages. This week it's all about trying to show off the sponsors' badges, and we're seeing it yet again today with the same teams involved.
Yes, well, you know, the teams have their tactic. The teams who cannot maybe do something in the sprint at the end, they're going to send men into the breakaway, and that's what we're seeing today again, as we see yesterday. And then you have the teams who have the big sprinters. They're going to, you know, try and keep their men together and work out a sprint for their sprinter in the team and try and get some exposure that way. And, you know, we see yesterday, you know, the way it worked out in the end. The big sprinter teams, they're always going to take control, and the smaller teams, they have to get some exposure where they can.
Plenty of exposure for the big teams at the back here, as we see the Team Sky rider Salvatore Puccio, one of the two riders who are eligible for the young riders classification for Sky, and alongside Sebastian Henao, who's the youngest rider in the race. Just going past our screens was Nicola Bohm, one of the riders for Bardiani. And at the front it's pretty relaxed. That gap again has climbed out to 3 minutes and 16 seconds as lunch is taken on. And lunch is thrown away, or what's left of it, by Svein Tuft at the front there. And it's back to the rain gear for everybody as that weather starts to close in again. How much rain gear do people carry in the car here? Because again, a lot of it's been taken off when it's got dry. They go back to the car for more, and stuff's already wet. There's a lot of kit got to be carried around by the teams.
Well, I think, you know, the kit, they have maybe a rain jacket, a heavy one, and then a lighter one. The same with the gloves, they have a heavier one. Yesterday we did see, I think it was Pataki who was, you know, trying to change his gloves yesterday. So the riders would have a heavier gloves and then something lighter just for the cold conditions. And they're certainly using all their supply here. And when they take off and they put them into the car, you know, they put them on the dashboard and they try and dry them out there. So you can imagine what the team car is like as they follow, because so much wet gear coming back and trying to dry it out for the riders, because the way the weather is changing here in the past days and again today, they have to try, you know, get it dry for later because they're changing gear all the time.
Time for a commercial break. Keep it Eurosport Cycling. Sean and I back in just a moment. Back with the breakaway. Lotto, who have a birthday in their team today. Must say happy birthday to a very special rider on Grand Tours. It's 33 years old today for Adam Hansen, who's riding his 8th Grand Tour in succession. It's a very, very special achievement. A man who won a stage last year on the Giro d'Italia. He's looking to do the same this year. Aussie rider, I think, still lives in the Czech Republic. Designs his own shoes. 8th consecutive Grand Tour. Deemed important and reliable enough to be chosen by the team bosses on the start of each of those. No doubt an achievement in itself, I think, Sean.
Yes, it's an achievement. We did see him last year, you know, in the Grand Tours, and what a stage he won last year. It was a spectacular one. We see Sella there, that famous crash when they came to one of these corners on a wet downhill, and he went sliding out and almost took some of the police force out. And Hansen went on his own and just, you know, held on so strong. It was a real nice stage, a great stage to win.
Great stage to win, of course. 8th Grand Tour in a row. If he finishes it, of course, he gets to move on again and keep racking them up. Record number of Grand Tours ridden in a row, 12 apparently. Bernardo Ruiz, all the way back between 1954 and 1958. And if he's still riding in a year, then he's obviously an injury-free, fingers crossed. Then he's obviously in line to try and go for that record. There's Ricardo Zoidl, Austrian champion, going back to talk to the Trek Factory racing car. Trek had a good day yesterday. Good placing as well with Giacomo Nizzolo. They did a lot of the controlling of the train towards the end. They took control, certainly when Giant seemed to lose control of the run into the sprint. Third place for Nizzolo against some pretty big sprint names. And we heard a few whispers that Nizzolo was in very, very good form coming into this race, as we see an adjustment for Ricardo Zoidl. Bit of spanner work on the move there. And yeah, really good performance yesterday from Trek.
Yes, it was a good performance, and we see him in the very end yesterday, Trek factory race, and they, they came to the front at a time when it was important for Nizzolo. They, took control, and I think they were the ones who very pushed Giant Shimano off the front of the peloton, and made it quite exciting into that final corner. But Nizzolo finishing very strong, and it proves that he's in good shape. And I think it will give him, a bit of morale for today. They will be really up for and trying to get him into a good position again, because if they can really take him to a nice position here, he's capable of pulling off a stage, and they want to do it early as well, as we talked about. The advantage is if he can get a stage victory earlier on, well, then it relaxes everybody.
Water all over the place, riders all over the place as well. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. We've had a bike change there for one of the Tinkoff Saxo riders. Very wet roads. It's funny because, again, we talked about the weather following. We've seen this constant change from wet to dry, and that's a problem in itself, isn't it?
Well, it is a problem. You're wrapping up when it starts to rain heavily. You're putting on your waterproof gear. Then the sunshine comes out for a moment, and if you start to ride a bit faster, well, then you start getting too hot. You start to sweat a bit, but then you start, even the cars are getting broke down here, as we can see.
Dear.
It's it is dangerous times for the riders, because with the change and the temperatures are changing a lot as you go through the day. Sometimes there's a change of 3, 4, 5 degrees in the temperature, and that is a real risky one for the riders. And we've seen that since we've started this race up in Belfast. It's been like that all through, and it's continuing on here today.
Well, despite the weather, Sean, I know you've been talking and you've had the ear of some of the organisers of this Giro Big Start, as it's been named, the Grande Partenza of the Giro d'Italia. Do you think that both north and south of the border, they'll be pretty happy with how it's gone?
Well, I think we'll have to wait and see as we get further into this stage, to make a count on that one. We've seen up Belfast, it was a huge support, and it looks like, as we go on here, going towards Dublin, the support is quite good. Certainly, when you drive through Belfast in the last number of days, every restaurant, every shop, they had something about Giro. There was something in pink, where here in Dublin it hasn't been the same. As we came in this morning, you could see that. But I think the people who come out to support it, that's something we've always had here, and when there's a big event on, the Irish are great for supporting.
Well, fantastic atmosphere, I can tell you. Looking at the commentary box window, it's actually sunny at the finish line in Dublin as we see the rain falling on the course. Everybody is dressed in pink, but as Sean said, it's just ever so slightly disappointing that some of the more shops and businesses and areas haven't decked out the city in the colour of the Giro d'Italia. BMC did a great job protecting Cadel Evans yesterday, and Cadel in his post-stage declarations actually thanked this man, Manuel Quinziato, and Daniel Oss, the two big rulers who are expected to escort him through and keep him upright and safe in the final stages of the sprint stages, when everything gets a little hectic. He was complaining about the cold, though, was Cadel, and well, there's some more cold to come, because as we've seen pictures yesterday, the Stelvio and the Gavia still full of snow, with 2.5 weeks to go before we visit them. Let's hope that things get cleared enough in time and we can have a full Giro d'Italia. We don't want the situation that we had last year, where, of course, we had cancelled stages and shortened routes almost every day in the final week.
Yes, well, last year was exceptionally bad conditions. I don't think we'll get them this time round. And of course, in the big climbs, the Stelvio, there's always going to be snow at this time of year. But if you get the dry conditions, well, then the riders don't mind that. You can have 1 metre, 2 metres of snow at the side of the road, but you can be in sunshine, and that's what the riders need. So long as it's not raining and snowing when you get up to the altitude, that is the difficult one. And the conditions here, the wet conditions, it's not cold for the riders, but still it's always a little bit dangerous when you're out there for a long time every day, 4 to 5 hours every day. The athletes are so fit, they're so open to catching something in these conditions. Dry conditions or bike racing, even if it's only 5 or 6 degrees you can wrap up, it's better than being in the rain at any temperature.
Well, you talk about the banks of snow. It's what the public wants to see as well. It's a spectacular image when they're up there on the Stelvio, on the Gavia, with banks of snow either side, the sun shining. That is the classic image of the Dolomites in the Giro d'Italia that we all want to see. Francis Desjeux at the back. As we start to think about the end of today's stage, can anybody beat Marcel Kittel? And if so, is there a plan you think that anybody's going to come up with to try and tire his team out before? We're going to see, with this gap at the minute, 4 minutes and 7 seconds, we can see Francis Desjeux starting to ride, but are we going to see the teams perhaps making Giant do more of the riding today?
Well, I think in the end we see that yesterday, but Giants, they worked it out well. They just sat back and did not take it up too early, certainly, and that's what they'll do again today. And of course, the situation in the race at the moment, Orica Green Edge, they're going to control this breakaway. They cannot allow the guys to finish too far out in front, because the general classification is still tight at the moment, and the sprinters teams know that, so they will just hang back as long as possible and try and take it up in the end. But I think looking at yesterday's stage, the teams will have seen that Giants, you can push them in the final kilometres, and that's what a team like Francis Desjeux will want to be doing here in the final kilometre as well. Get Bohani in a real good position, and of course with that little technical run in, you just never know what happened, because a sprinter can always just get pushed around a bit and not get the best position into that final corner with 400 metres as it is here in Dublin this afternoon. Then they could get a stage victory in that way.
Spectacular image, perhaps not the sort we wanted to see, but spectacular nonetheless. One of the camera motorbikes both taking a photo and trying to help out the peloton by pointing out the danger on the right hand side of the road there. In the meantime, the breakaway continue on. They've been allowed to continue on, and for them there's no more prizes now. No more intermediate sprinting, no more King of the Mountains points to be dished out. Just the fact that there's television exposure to go. This is the look back to the line at the minute. Now, there's a 90-degree turn right at the base of that shot, Sean. The road does go quite narrow in the last kilometre in certain stages as well.
It certainly does. When you come out of the last corner with that around 400 metres to go, it does tighten up a bit. It's just that final corner there, just around the 400 metres to go, that chicane, that is going to be a very important one. If we get dry conditions and dry road, well, then it will make it that quite a bit more safe. But in the wet conditions, it's going to be a risky one as well. And when you look at the route book here, and when you walk it, which we did this morning, it is quite more technical than you would read from the route manual.
Marcel Kittel hoping to avoid all those problems. You can just see the red jersey underneath that white rain cape of his. He's got the black arm warmers on as well, the big German. 26 today, and of course now a stage winner on each of the 3 Grand Tours. Interesting as well, for those of you maybe watching the Giro d'Italia, and if you haven't watched it for a few years, since the points jersey became red, there's an ever so slight difference between the Maglia Rosa and the Maglia Rossa. Maglia Rosa being the pink jersey of the general classification leader, and the Maglia Rossa, as we see the Rosa there, the pink, the Maglia Rossa that Kittel was wearing, the red jersey, is the points jersey. Of course, formerly the Maglia Ciclamino purple-violet jersey. Has all been changed in the last few years. Michael Matthews then, how long can he hold on to this pink jersey, Sean? He certainly tends to think that if he does well enough in today's sprint stage and keeps placing in the top 5, 10, that he's looking maybe even towards day 6.
Yes, I think looking at the race manual, is it day 6 we start to get a climb? Yes.
Well, we have the first serious
Yes.
Serious climbing in Monte Cassino, of course. Serious not in terms of the big alpine climbs, but where we've got an uphill finish and one where the GC guys are going to have to be wary.
Yes, and it's a climb of 8 or 9 kilometres, so it is going to be a difficult one. If there's, a lot of if there's a lot of attacking on that climb, well, then we could see Matthews getting difficulty. But looking down the rest of the route, I think he can hold on till there, and that would be, it would be a great Giro for the team, for himself, because to get that many days in the pink jersey, well, it would be a fabulous Giro for the team.
Certainly would. It means that they would have held the pink jersey ever since the opening stage, the team time trial, when Svein Tuft took it at the end of that day. Somebody saying hello to Oscar there, but everybody decked out in pink. Republic of Ireland doing itself proud as well. The Spanish flag, the Italian flag, the Irish flag, they're all there. Supporters from all over the world. Great for the tourist boards, both north and south of the border. And the island of Ireland has done itself very, very proud the last few days. Pressure on Yorkshire with the summer coming up. It's a very, very lucky period to be in the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland as well over this summer, with both big cycling races starting here as well. You talked about cycling being the new golf, and there is that swing of interest. There's so many people on bikes that come from all over this region in Northern Europe, and it was wonderful to see in Belfast yesterday.
Yes, wonderful to see the amount of people out there, and it's just, it's taken off in the last number of years. Biking seems to be the thing to do, and so many, people taking it up. Ireland and England, there's a huge boom at the moment, and I think it's going to go on for, quite a number of years.
Break time for us. The gap is at 4 minutes. Things quite calm in the peloton. A very warm welcome back to stage 3 of this Giro d'Italia, the Tour of Italy, starting on the island of Ireland this year. We've got a 5-man breaker at the minute, fighting against a headwind for the most part of the day, and intermittent, pretty nasty rain showers. Again, apologies for mentioning the weather, but it has been a very big factor of the opening 3 days. The Diretto Sportives knew that it was going to be the case, and if you look at all the race previews, both in Italy and the Italian press, in Ireland as well, in local press too, and throughout the world, everybody's been talking about how scared they were of their main general classification riders getting ill, getting sick, or even taking a tumble in the rain. We've seen problems earlier on today for the sprinter of Androni Giocattoli, Manuel Belletti. We feel that he's in the back of the peloton here. We haven't seen too much of him. He had a bandage on his knee and a very, very painful left elbow as well. Katusha team in the red with the black rain neoprene jerseys on, with Luca Paolini, the bearded man there right to the right of your shot, coming to ride on the front. Vladimir Gusev there as well. At the end, and at the stage finale in Dublin, lots of people decked out in pink, and it is a great sight to see. Had problems for Belkin too. Wilco Kelderman's hit the floor, sprinting at the back of a sprint for intermediate sprint points and bonus seconds earlier on today. A few mechanical adjustments have been needed. And it's quite a slow day today on the Giro d'Italia as a result of what we've just been telling you. A little bit of a headwind, changing weather conditions, the gap to the breakaway not being big at all and being very, very controllable throughout the day has meant that there's nobody in any real rush to get to Dublin at the minute. 69 kilometres remain. You're watching Eurosport Cycling. Sean Kelly and me, Rob Hatch. Please get in touch with us. Questions for Sean to @RobHatchTV. Hashtag any of your tweets. Eurosport Cycling, please. And we'll do our best to endeavour to read out any comments or questions you may have. The blue jersey for the King of the Mountains from Martin Chilling. He's been covered up by the rain jacket at the moment. Rubiano's there at the back. The man at the front, Herr Dox, 25 years of age, rider from Turnhout. Flandrian rider for a Flandrian team who we mentioned yesterday haven't had the best spring. Looking to recover in the second half of the season. Plenty more prizes up for grabs. Of course, only 3 day of a 21-day, 3-week first Grand Tour of the year here. The Tour de France to come, and its build-up races as well, the likes of Swiss and, of course, the Dauphiné. Vuelta a España. So many other races over in North America in August as well. Lots and lots with the end-of-season classics too. So there is the bandaged Manuel Belletti at the back, looking a little more comfortable, riding well, of course, it looks as though it was a pretty nasty fall shown. Plenty of blood on that left leg, despite the rain no doubt washing some of it off. And he's got a lot of recovering to do.
Yes, well, at least he's got back into the peloton, and it looks like he's only making it back there now, and that's a long time ago since we had the crash, so he's been back there in the cavalcade of cars for a long time, but looks like he has recovered. And when you go down immediately, you know, it's very painful, and he was suffering a lot, and it looked like he was in trouble the way they were, you know, checking his elbow out, but looks that, you know, he's in better condition now and going to get into the peloton here. And when you get back into the peloton, you know, to finish this stage, no major difficulty, so he can get through today, tomorrow rest day, and hopefully recover for the stages back in Italy.
Once we get to Italy, the attention will start to turn to who's going to win this Giro d'Italia as the first week goes on. We have the first early sparring matches. Question from Joe Hill on Twitter. Of course, we've been talking about the Irish chances. We had that awful luck for Dan Martin on stage one. What chance does Nicholas Roach have of realistically winning the GC, says Joe?
Well, I think winning it is going to be a big ask, because we've seen Nicholas, you know, he is performing well over 3 weeks with the big mountain stages. I think he will have difficulty there matching some of the other big favourites that were here, but he has been improving, I think, in the last number of years. Can he improve again? This season he hasn't done anything really in the beginning. He's been focusing on the Tour of Italy, so if he comes right and gets real good shape for the final week, you know, who knows, a place in the podium I think is possible to win it. It would be it's difficult to see at this moment, but you never know, because, you know, the race, it depends on what the other big favourites, what sort of shape they're in at the end. In bike racing, all is possible.
Sky with Bernie Eisel going back to the car. We talked about road captains yesterday, and he's a perfect example of one. Bernie Eisel, the Austrian, turned Southeast Englander, we should say, with the accent that he's got. Very well respected rider in his profession. And of course, has ridden excellently for himself as well. Had a lot of the Megafauna Quick-Step riders going back to the car recently when we were away at the break as well. Rigoberto Urán was out there at the back, no real problems for him. And there's the problem though for Manuel Belletti. Looks painful. Well, of course there are doctors on the course, Sean. What sort of treatment can be administered whilst you're still riding? Well,
of course, you know, we can see there that there is a lot of road rash, a lot of wounds, but sometimes, you know, it looks a lot worse than it actually is. When you fall, of course, the first thing is the pain. You're just concerned that you've broken something, and if that is the case, well, then when you try and get back on your bike, the pain just gets worse. But you know, the road rash he has got, it looks, you know, painful, but as I say, sometimes it looks much worse than actually is feeling.
Well, interesting that we go through Drogheda here, described by our graphics department as a small industrial town, name meaning Form Bridge. Close to the coast around here, on our way into Dublin. The race, by the way, passing through counties Louth and Meath before into County Dublin today. Go through the Skerries as well, Lusk, Sword, Malahide, Portmarnock as well, where you tell me is a huge, impressive golf course. Not there'll be many people playing this weather, I don't think.
Yes, well, Portmarnock is a famous one, and yeah, the club members, Christy O'Connor, in Irish sporting people, but Christy O'Connor would be a legend here. You know, the Ryder Cup many times, and Portmarnock would, anybody in golf, anything to do with golf, you would know Portmarnock course.
Clontarf after that, and then across the Talbot Memorial Bridge through to City Quay, and then up into Merrion Street Upper. And where we're sitting talking to you from is just outside where the Taoiseach works, the Prime Minister here in the Republic of Ireland, the Parliament, the government buildings, very close to the Prime Ministerial headquarters. And I can tell you, looking out the window at the minute, there are lots and lots of people here. This is Drogheda, by the way, ancient monastery ruins. Lots to see in Ireland. Not too much to see for the peloton at the moment. Neither of those brave souls standing on the side of the roads. They're getting the rewards, though. They're getting to see their heroes up close. A few asking where Vincenzo Nibali is this year. He's concentrating on the Tour de France, for those of you asking on Twitter. And nice to see some pink decoration here in the Republic of Ireland as well. Three minutes 40 the gap as we pass through Drogheda. The early bits of climbing were done today. The first couple of climbs were around 4 kilometres long each, up to 300 metres above sea level, averaging 2.8 and 4.1% gradients respectively, so nothing too much. Now, a lot of people wondering why the teams don't wear rain jackets that are always the same colours as their team colours. Is that something you think, Sean, that the UCI should enforce to help the spectators get to grips more with the sport?
Well, I think it would help us all, for us commentators as well.
Certainly help us here, yes.
On the wet days as we've been having in this Giro, to recognise the riders and the teams. It would be much better, as we can see here.
That's a perfect example, isn't it?
Yes, you know, in black, and it's the material. They say it's difficult to get the sponsors onto this material, although some people say it is possible, but from what I understand from the teams, they say it's not easy to get the team logos and the team sponsors on this material. It doesn't help. I think it affects the waterproofing of the material, but normally we see in older times where you have the normal rain, the raincoats, and they are well branded, as we can see here on the rear with one of the riders, with Maxime Monfort. You can see it's a bit better branded, and that makes it easy for everybody. It's surprising that the UCI haven't come up with a regulation where you have to use your rain gear in the same colours as your team.
I think Saxo are doing a good job there. Of course, the numbers on the back, that is the jersey of Nico Roach. She's got the arm warmers on underneath, which are a dark blue colour. But looking further back, you saw the Lotto rider, Maxime Monfort. Perfect example there. Their kit is red, and it was a black jacket, even though the sponsor was shown off well, so it helped us slightly. Another example here, Lampre with the black jacket on. They should be wearing the fuchsia pink and dark blue. And there's Cadel Evans hiding behind. Got his cap on as well. Manu said he didn't like the cold, and Manu should be used to the cold living in Switzerland. Lives near Lugano. BMC with a big job to do. Yannick Eisen close to him. One stage win at the Giro, and that was a rainy day. That was an epic day back in Montalcino. One of the most entertaining days we have seen on the Giro d'Italia in the last few decades, I would say. That really was a special win for him.
It was a special win and a special day as well. You know, we remember the conditions, the wet conditions, and the mud. The riders were just unrecognisable. They were so covered in the mud. And Cadel Evans, of course, you know, he can support this weather quite well. The question is, some of the other general classification, the favourites, Quintana, I don't think he will be liking the conditions we're getting here, and he will be certainly hoping when they get back to Italy the weather will be good, more warm conditions, because that's where he performed well. And you know, 2 days in the rain, okay, get the rest day, but if we get back to Italy and there's wet conditions, that could affect the performance of a rider like Quintana, who really performed well. The warmer, better it is.
Maxime Monfort there going back. Harris Cook asking, what do people shout on the side of the roads at the Giro? He says, of course, in the Tour de France here, everybody's shouting, allez, allez, go, go in French. Well, in Italian, the word is vai. A lot of vai, vai, you'll hear once we get to Italy. Quite loud as well in the crowd as well. It does tend to be the easy word of choice for everybody to get the message across. Here's Kenny de Haas, Belgian rider from Lotto Belisol. He has got the red jacket on, so it is possible. He'll be hoping to have a sprint today. Still 3 minutes and 35. Very, very controllable, this. Hence the reason that everything is so slow today. Three hours and 6 minutes in the saddle. A long time in these conditions. Neri Sottoli with a rider coming back to the car. Again, they'll be happy that they've got another man into the breakaway. Speed rising ever so slightly at the minute. Back on the slowest time schedule, which is 40 kilometers per hour. Day's coming up. Of course, they'll be hoping for that sunshine in Bari. But looking ahead and looking at this Giro d'Italia, Sean, it really is going to be one, whoever wins it in the last week. Those last 3 or 4 days before we get to Trieste are absolutely brutal, aren't they?
Yes, a really difficult final week, and that's where, you know, we will see the big showdown. But you know, the earlier part of the race is important as well. The weather conditions, it can have a bearing, as I mentioned. Some riders, you know, do not support the wet conditions for a number of days, so they'll be hoping that that will, you know, get better as we go back to Italy. But certainly the final week of this one is going to be the one where we're going to see the big battle for the winner here.
Crash, big crash, lots of riders down. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Johnny Hogeland is there. Astana look like they're down en masse. Michele Scarponi has a problem. What has happened here? Mud all over the face of one of the riders, maybe Agnoli, I think. Scarponi's the man in the black jacket here. He's hurt, and he's the team leader. This is an absolute disaster for some of the GC boys.
Yes, riders everywhere, can we see here, and they're just going along at an easy pace and not really battling, but a lot of Astanas here after hitting the deck.
Well, the number one, Michele Scarponi, wasn't the winner of the race last year, but it was his team that won the race. He is there, he's back on his bike. The riders everywhere got him in with another man down, and it looks as though it might well be Cardoso, I think, who fell the other day, the Portuguese rider. Looking around to see if there's anybody unable to get up. There's certainly a clean of the face for Enrico Gasparotto there. Giuseppe Martinelli out of the car and helping wipe things down. The good news is, I think, that the peloton will be happy to wait, I think, for whatever's happened here. There's a long, long way to go still, Sean.
Yes, a long ways to go, and you know, the advantage of breakaway, there's no panic at the moment, so I don't think, you know, the race for the race leader jersey is in any difficulty at the moment, so there will be a slowdown here, and everybody hopefully ever get back. It seems like that, you know, the riders, a few of them a bit concerned, but everybody seems to be getting back on their bikes.
Well, yet to see what caused the crash. Immediately a shot of everything coming down, and look, straight away, nobody really doing too much riding here, Sean. Everybody slowed down. Big formation across, and they will have been informed on the race radio to see finally the last rider to get back on his bike do so. That's Valerio Agnoli. They will have been told to wait by the director of sport teams. Yes,
I think the riders themselves will, you know, realise that there's been a big crash. As we can see here again, just a number of riders touching and many riders going down. The peloton will slow down automatically because they're riding at a casual pace beforehand. There's nobody going to start pushing up, and there's no need to you know, up the pace at the moment. So, you know, all these riders will get back in, but hopefully there's nobody that will, you know, carry an injury from this one.
Well, the race, of course, isn't really on in these situations, hence the reason why no racing is done. Nobody tries to put these teams under pressure when unfortunate incidents like that happen. Of course, they want the race to be won properly. That's all part of the unwritten rules of cycling and, of course, the code of ethics. Another bit of help there as the camera is warned away by Valerio Agnoli is one of the other teams helping another rider. Bardiani, of course, helping to draft Agnoli back there, and of course if Agnoli were to behind his own team car, then he might get a bit of a telling off from the commissaires.
Well, I think it's possible, and we can see here he's lost a lot of time, so he's going to use the car here to get back, and it's amazing he's riding what, 2-3 inches from the rear bumper of the car in the wet conditions. You know, the riders can do that, and it's something, you know, you need to have the confidence of the driver of that car as well. He needs to be experienced, and you know, to get back in, you need that. And the commissars are pretty lenient on it, you know, with the situation when there is a crash, but it's always better that you just follow another team car. That way the commissar, you know, turns a bit of a blind eye to it, really.
Well, I didn't want the cameras to catch it and anybody watching from the television in the commissar's car to see it, but again, as you say, may well turn a little bit of a blind eye. Everything slowed down in the peloton, everybody at the finish line oblivious, and the breakaway carrying on and just increasing their gap again to 3 minutes and 51 seconds. But joining us a little late today, this is the breakaway. Yunder Godoy, the Venezuelan of Androni. Rubiano is the Colombian champion. They're right at the back in the yellow, red and blue. in green because he's riding in his rain jacket from Belkin, is the man we saw take the blue jersey yesterday for the best climber, Martin Cialinghi. Het Dux is there as well for Lotto Belisol, and Giorgio Cecchinel is the young rider from Meri-Soltoli Sky. And a lot of other teams taking their chances and opportunities to go back here and again transfer some rain jackets, have a word with the team cars. And all those riders who we saw involved in the crash are starting to make their way back now. Again, we saw Scarponi with a few little problems. Again, didn't seem to be injured in a way that was perhaps going to affect his Giro. But again, you hope that certainly with the rest and transfer day tomorrow and the mountains and the serious days for the GC guys not beginning until really stage 6, that there'll be no effect on Scarponi's challenge.
No, hopefully not. Although he did seem to have a few marks from the fall. Hopefully, they're not anything serious. It looked like that he was, a little bit concerned in the beginning. He was looking at his injuries, but got back on his bike quickly. And the time of the crash, that is an important one. If it happened in the final 20 kilometres when they'd be really racing, well, then it could be a disaster for some of the general classification men if you got, tangled up in a crash at that point. Still, just under 60 kilometres to go, no problem getting back into the main peloton.
56.2 kilometres to go then. Take a deep breath. Bit of excitement on the way into Dublin, not perhaps of the type we wanted. This is the breakaway group again gaining their advantage. 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Just means that the chase is going to have to be put on in the last 50 k's or so when everybody gets back in the peloton and the sprint teams start to get organised again. But again, perhaps, Sean, you could place the blame of the crash on the fact that it's a pretty slow, lethargic day so far.
Well, I think that was the reason. They're just rolling along at a pretty easy pace, and there's a lot of riders, changing their gloves, changing their rain jackets, and maybe that was the reason, or just a little bit of slowdown. And when you're going at that pace, they're very grouped together and all across the road, and if there's a little bit of a slowdown, they brake suddenly and it comes back through the bunch, they touch wheels and down they go. And I think that was the problem, that the guys a bit further down the peloton, a sudden slope, and in the wet conditions as well, your braking is not as good. You cannot slow down as quickly because when you brake, it takes a little bit more longer for the braking to start to slow you down. Where in the dry conditions, you have much more of a response from your brakes.
Valerio Agnoli shakes his head. He's on a spare bike, of course. And I think that's it. Everybody's back in the peloton now. And you could just see the giant rider on the front pressing his earpiece in, perhaps waiting to begin to start riding on the front again.
Yes, I think Giant will certainly want to keep a control on this breakaway, and they'll not want to allow the breakaway to be too far out at a late stage, because then you have to make such a big effort to close it down, and it's difficult to keep the team numbers up front for the very final. And that's what Giant Shimano for Marcel Kittel they need the 3 or 4 of their specialist lead-out men to be with Kittel to the very end.
Yannick Eisen was going back to the team car. BMC again facing a tough task to try and keep Cadel Evans safe. Well, they dress up for the Giro d'Italia in these parts. Nice welcome. Peloton to come, 4 minutes time. Damon Carretero, pardon me, no, that is Edwin Avila, in fact. Colombia rider, not the Meri-Soltoli rider. Edwin Avila is the sprinter in the Colombian team. Strong man on the track, the young rider. Is Ivan Santaromita coming to the front to join his Orica Green Edge teammates, the man in the green helmet, red shorts. He is the Italian national champion. So a bit of order starts to be restored to the peloton. A bit of speed will be added. Okay, just trying to recover from injuries. Lambre had 3 or 4 riders down as well. Oh, and you can just see, we saw the mud on the face of Valerio Agnoli, a little bit more mud on the face of Enrico Gasparotto, and we saw why his face was being washed off, because it looks as though he's taking quite a bit of skin off his chin.
Yes, we could see Martinello was washing him off there, and I think Gasparotto was a little bit concerned about the cut, but it looks like it's just a little bit of road rash, nothing serious.
Not pleasant for the Italian. Leaving County Louth, going to County Meath, and very closely into the county of Dublin. Around 200 riders. If you're around Dublin Airport and the hotels tonight, expect a few curses in Italian and Spanish and the universal languages of the peloton of the Irish weather. But just saying to you in the break there, Sean, that they better get used to it, because it could be exactly the same in Yorkshire come July.
What? Sorry, you would be expecting it to be a bit better in July, but there's no guarantee, of course, in Yorkshire. You know, you could have a bad number of days, and the riders will be certainly not happy with the conditions here in Ireland. You know, you can get one day, but, you know, they've had it since they've been over here, and they've been over, I think, on Wednesday. They were trying to do some warm-up or some training runs, and the conditions were so bad. I think I heard from one of the guys up there, they had to do the indoor on the rollers, on the trainers on one occasion, because it was so bad out there. And it's been like that since they've been here, before the race, during the race, and guaranteed the riders will be saying, no, this country is not good for bike racing, even though it's at the beginning of May. But again, you know, for Yorkshire for the Tour of France, there's no guarantee that we'll get conditions, and you know, they don't like these conditions. They're expecting maybe to get a day, but from then on they will be hoping to get the right conditions, and it hasn't been the case here in Ireland for the riders, unfortunately.
They've been unlucky, but of course it can happen anywhere, any time. Of course, in Italy we had worse weather than this last May. The Giro was beset by problems. We saw Enrico Gasparotto there riding back to the medic's car to receive some treatment on the cut on that nose. Rider at the back here is Yukira Arashiro, the Japanese national champion riding for Europe Car. 151 down, 136th overall. Just over 50 kilometres to go. War wounds being licked. Riders start to ride again on the front of the peloton, and the gap goes below 4 minutes for the first time. And look at this welcome. Pink absolutely everywhere. Heading on our way through Valbriggen. And now officially into the county of Dublin. I know a lot of you have been out following the route and have gone home and turned the television on as well, and are following us, writing to us on Twitter saying how incredible the atmosphere is. And we mentioned it briefly yesterday, and going back to Philip Dignan's comments of when he watched the Tour de France here in Dublin in 1998, this is the perfect opportunity to create a new generation of cyclist racers, and more importantly, you have to say the fans and the love for the sport. Yes,
well, for the fans, certainly, you know, they follow the races on TV, all the races, and then just to see him here in Ireland, they love that. And the people taking part in the sport are into cycling, the cycling clubs and the younger generation, you know, the 15, 16-year-olds. We did hear about Philip Dignan. He went to see, you know, the Tour of Ireland, and that's really what got him into cycling. And it's always great. And in all sports, you need to be able to see the younger generation get close to their heroes and see their heroes. And that's what they're getting here in Ireland. So hopefully we will have a few more young and up-and-coming cyclists in the years to come because of the Giro coming to Ireland this year.
Frances Desjeux and Giant have started to ride at the front of the peloton as we go to the back, and we look out onto the Irish Sea. Stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia. Armagh to Dublin. An historic day, a border crossing, and down here to Dublin for the stage finish. Inside 50 k's now, and the chase is on. Back on again after a nasty crash if you're away. If you're joining us late, Michele Scarponi, the biggest name to go down, but almost en masse the entire Astana team went with them. A few cat's eyes and other problems being pointed out. Frances Desjeux and Giant sharing the workload now at the front, and that's because they've got the two fastest riders in the peloton, let's be blunt about it. Marcel Kittel's birthday, hoping for another win, a second successive win. I think I'm correct in saying he'd be the first German to win successive stages of the Giro d'Italia for quite a long time, talking 12 or 13 years. I think it's Danilo Hondo, the last one. Here we go. Oh, Ivan Basso, front wheel puncture. Plenty of time, luckily for him. 56 seconds down, and he has had a fairly solid start. Ivan Basso kept out of trouble, kept quiet, which is how he wanted to do. And again, much better that this should happen now rather than a little further on. Be helpful if they got the wheel correctly positioned before he went off, but winner of the Giro d'Italia in 2006 and 2010 as well. 6-time the stage winner. He's worn the pink jersey on several occasions as well, and other times when he hasn't won the race. Ivan Basso will get a little help on his way back as well. As I said, Sean, better to happen now than in the last 15-10Ks.
Yes, by far having a problem now. It's a good time to get it out of the way, and hopefully it's your problem for the day. And Basso, you know, we've seen him yesterday. He is riding very much to the front. Already today we've seen him. He's right up in the front end of the peloton there, and he's a rider, you know, coming to the end of his career. He's not comfortable in those conditions. We know in the wet conditions he's never been, but as you get a bit older and get to the end of your career, you don't like these conditions. You're a little bit more concerned about getting tied up in crashes, getting, you know, caught in the crashes, and he's certainly, you know, been riding very much to the front to stay out of any danger.
Inside the final 47 kilometres, there's still a slight headwind virtually all the way down the coast for the riders today. It's not easy work. Three minutes and 27 seconds the gap. This is the breakaway. Yonder Godoy, the youngest of them out here at the minute, just 21 years of age last month. Another talented Venezuelan cyclist. They've got some great scouts in Venezuela. Androni Giocattoli, they seem to pick up the best riders. I know they had Jose Rujano a few years ago, once and twice. Had their falling out dues, just as every team seemed to have had with Jose Rujano. Previous star on this race, though, and then since gone on to run into problems. Good South American contingent, though, here at this race. 14 Colombians here. We're due to be 15 till passport and visa problem intervened. But the leader of those Colombians, in terms of the national champion at least, at the front there. This is Ivan Basso in the meantime, just making it way back onto the peloton. Had that front wheel change. Maybe wanting that car to go, the camera to go away, pardon me. He's behind the car there. I mentioned Ivan Basso yesterday, and interesting to see what sort of performance he can come up with here. Rubiano in the Colombian national champions jersey peels off. The man behind him rides on and through. Kerdox. Basso is going to get some help. And of course, they're not going to take any chances here, Sean, at all.
No, I think it's just getting every problem solved here. We could see Basso there as he was moving away after getting the front wheel change. I think it was the computer sensor was touching the spoke, so he had to stop and just correct it a bit. But we have a teammate here who is waiting for him to come through. We can see that he's been talking via the radio to the Director Sportif. We also see that the commissaire there was, you know, coming to the Kennedy car in time to move on a bit, because Basso was just, you know, sitting for a bit too long behind.
Well, Cannondale can refer to themselves in their press releases as the green machine, as I said yesterday. Hoping that all the parts of that machine work well to get Basso in, to put his best performance in possible here. Team manager Roberto Amadio said that they aim to go into this Giro as one of the most combative teams, wanting to play an attacking role every time they had the chance. You reckon that his team selection supporting that ambition rather than just supporting Ivan Basso in a leader's role. Desire to show the potential, he said, and it will be a huge motivator for the Giro, and certainly as a mostly Italian team, despite their American sponsor, they've got a lot of motivation to ride this Giro. Team director is Stefano Zanata, saying that they had a balanced and fully equipped team, as he described it. And he described Basso as a gutsy rider, he said, one that never gives up, and a man that will need a bit of support in the mountains, and they're hoping to achieve what they describe as a good result. Perhaps a little less pressure at this time placed on Ivan Basso, given his age, I think.
Well, I think, yes, you know, he's up there, but as one of the big favourites, we're not talking about it as much, and that takes the pressure off a bit. But I think that, you know, Cannondale and the team are certainly, you know, hoping that Basso will be able to do a performance. And we have seen in the past, you know, Basso, they support him so well in the earlier parts of the mountain stages, and we'll have to wait and see if he's capable of doing a good performance this year.
Time for us to go for a break as we see Michael Matthews still with that pink jersey covered up for the moment. Going through Skerries on our way into County Dublin. And that's the Irish Sea. There's a bit of blue out there, finally. 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Now, whilst you've been away at the break, we've seen quite an interesting image. Not one that Orica Green Edge fans will want to see, or Michael Matthews fans will want to see. In that last crash, we feel that Michael Matthews went down on the floor because he's just missing a small bit of his shorts on his backside, let's say.
Yes, we've just seen that as we were on the break. There were so many riders that did go down that crash there. There was, maybe 15 plus riders certainly, and it looks like that Michael Matthews was one of them. But I'm not be concerned. A little bit of a damage to the shorts. I don't think any more than that, and it doesn't look like he's suffering. He looks pretty comfortable on the last pictures we've seen of him.
I look comfortable enough as there's an upping of the pace here in the peloton. Francis Deschamps and Giant just trying to keep things safe through here. Interesting that Megaform, Quick-Step have done a bit of rising. I wonder how Alessandro Petacchi is feeling today. Of course, Rigoberto Urán is their main priority, let's not forget. Same with Movistar in the centre there and BMC on the left. Still very much a lot of the GC teams doing a lot of the riding at the front. But no, with the images we saw of Michael Matthews, and remember we came to the crash quite late, so Matthews could have been one of the first to go down and could have been straight back on his bike as well. Not too much of a damage to the shorts. Upping of the pace there is taking the gap straight down to below 3 minutes for the first time since the crash itself. Tight corner negotiated well. Thankfully everybody's still standing up. 41 Ks to go. Again, still very wet roads at the finish. I don't think they're going to dry out enough in time for the sprint finish here, and you do start to worry about that last couple of kilometres, those couple of really, really tight bends with narrow roads, and that horribly placed chicane with not a great road surface and a slightly uphill drag now. Cars getting in the way, the road narrowing, and Ivan Basso and company having to dodge both barriers and cars. It's not ideal, is it?
No, not ideal at all. We could see Basso there, just a little bit of panic moment, trying to knock his speed off with the team cars. And normally, like the drivers are very experienced, so they know that the rider coming up, and everybody just makes the signal, and they allow a free run for the riders to go by. But unfortunately for Basso, they're a little bit more of a difficulty. But yeah, this final again is going to be a real difficult one for everybody. They'll be very concerned. The interesting thing is, as we had yesterday, here at the finish line we get a downpour and then the sun comes out and it dries. I think for the first time we're seeing where the riders are not in the rain all the time, and that's something we see yesterday as well. They seem to be, being followed around by the rain all the time, and they had a lot of that today. So hopefully it might dry out a bit and they get a bit of a better run in here, because they certainly will need dry roads if that is possible.
One thing that we could ask, it would be that, I think, coming into the finale today. Everybody stays safe. Marcel Deschamps leading them through. Nasser Bouhanni second yesterday. He's almost been an eternal second place when he's ridden on the journey tally. We saw it last year to Mark Cavendish. Nasser Bouhanni, such a strong sprinter. I think he had second and third on stages. Just failed to push himself through when riding the Tour of Italy in the French national champions jersey then. In the mountains, the team were unlucky. They lost Arnaud Janasson and Sandy Cassar to crashes, but Francis Mouret took the leader's reins last year and managed to get himself up to 19th overall by the end of the race. Bouhanni in his second Giro. Goal is a first ever Grand Tour victory. 5 wins this season, though, so he has the form. And is there a stage where he gets a mental block sprinting against somebody like Marcel Kittel?
Well, I think Kittel is a mental block for a lot of the sprinters at the moment. The way he's performing over the last year plus, and I think they're always going to be saying, if it's a straight out sprint, man against man, well then Kittel is very difficult to beat. But the run in here is going to be the technical one, and that's something I think some of the other sprinters will be hoping they can get an advantage with that.
Chilling on the left in the green, inside 40 kilometres. 2 minutes and 57, still nothing too much to worry about for those behind. The chase has been off and on and off thanks to the crash, back on now. Being nicely controlled by those behind. Française des Jeunes giant. It's as we were yesterday, really. But Paul's on the right-hand side, as is Luca Paolini. Fran Ventoso close to front on the left as well for Movistar. Didn't see him too much involved in the sprints yesterday. Former Tour d'Italia stage winner on 2 occasions. Oh, and we've had a problem, the wind getting involved at the finish. 700 metres to go. Thankfully, the guard of the police are going to come along and help things. But if the wind's blowing across, then we've already got wet roads, narrow roads, all the ingredients for something nasty to happen. Fingers crossed. Wherever you're watching from, touch some wood for us, will you, please? Bluster and blustery wind just about everywhere. Rain's falling on the round. You call it right, Sean. Movistar taking control at the front. Cadel Evans just tucking home to an afternoon snack behind. Samuel Sanchez behind him. Fran Ventoso dispenses off some rain jacket. Quite a few souvenirs for the thousands and thousands of people watching at the side of the road today. A few bidons been thrown, the odd jacket has gone as well. Of course, a lot of the soigneurs on their way behind do their best to collect all that stuff. But I think there'll be more than a bit of a souvenir. We just hope that on those final bends, there won't be a bike as a souvenir.
Well, I think some people will be hoping that they get some souvenir from the final corner, because the people that I was talking with here and the spectators, they were all talking about this, the final chicane. So I think there will be a mass of people there just having a look to see what happens. And the way things are looking, as we can see again, they're just in the downpour at the moment once again. At the finish line here, it's drying off a bit, but still, you know, with the distance we have to the finish, I think that will change once again, as it has been all day.
Well, we've seen the physical problems sorted for Enrico Gasparotto, now a mechanical problem or two. Bactirello looks like it has a bit of a problem there. I think he's had a bike change as well after that crash. Trying to work out whether that's his number on the back there or not. Doesn't look like it, does it?
No, it looks like he's had a bike change already, and the gears are not working here, and yeah, he seems to have a difficulty getting the higher gear there.
We haven't seen too much of Michele Scarponi or the rest of the Astana team since that crash happened. Suggests that they're tucked away nicely in the centre. That's an illustration of the stuff coming down at the minute. It is pretty bleak. Now they will pine for some Mediterranean sun on Tuesday. I say Mediterranean, it's southern Adriatic, almost the Aegean where they're headed, in Apulia. It has been a real treat for everybody present here. Superb party despite the bad weather in Ireland, both north and south. Today's stage a good lot shorter than yesterday's stage. 187 kilometres compared to the almost 220 k's ridden yesterday. There's been a lot more headwind. The rain has been awful again. A question for you from Shane Toman. Sean, have you done this finish on the Nissan Classic before?
No, we haven't. We usually finish down in O'Connell Street on the Nissan Classic, so this one is it's a new finish, and it is going to be a difficult one in the conditions, as we've mentioned many times today. It's going to be all about this final corner. Position is going to be so important there to get into that final corner. But again, you know, sometimes when it's the wet conditions and all the teams are talking about, the Royals are talking about, this one is going to be a dangerous run in. So they might just really slow down, as we did see yesterday. It was really, you know, a sprint to get to the corner, and then they knocked their pace off a lot, and you know, they took up the sprint after getting out of the corner again when they were in the safety zone. We could see the same situation today.
Well, just to remind you, the sprinters who are here at this race: Marcel Kittel, the big name, the man who won yesterday. With him, Elia Viviani, who was fourth. Second yesterday was Nasser Bouhanni of Française des Jeux, the Frenchman. third, Giacomo Nizzolo, the Italian riding for Trek Factory Racing. We have Ben Swift for Sky, who put in a decent performance. Here's Davide Apollonio, who's a little further back, and being the sprinter for Asia Dosert, he won't be wanting to expend too much energy at the minute. Italian who has returned to winning ways after a long time, a big drought before this year. Manuel Belletti for Androni Giocattoli, the former Asia Dosert sprinter, another Italian, one Giro stage win back in 2010. He's had an injury today, not sure he'll be contesting the finale. Kenny de Haas, who's seen Jetse Bol, probably the fastest man in the Belkin team. Lampre Merida had Roberto Ferrari inside the top 10 yesterday. Michael Matthews, we saw, finishing 8th, he's in the pink jersey. Alessandro Petacchi, will he sprint, won't he sprint? And if he does, where will he finish? That's the big question for the 40-year-old. And Fran Bentoso, who's seen doing a bit of work on the front. They're the main sprinters. The big question is who is going to challenge, if anybody, Marcel Kittel. I think we've described the best we can the finale. It is very dangerous. A lot of it is going to depend on the slick roads here. And everybody just has to be alert, because one little error, Kittel or another big name could be out, and suddenly things could be very open.
Well, they will have to be very alert, and the conditions is going to call for much more of that, because yeah, you cannot make any mistake, because with the wet conditions you cannot correct it, and you know, everybody will be so nervous here. They certainly will be really up for it in the end. And the general classification men, you know, they have to, you know, fight here, keep a good position, because you can lose 15 seconds, 20 seconds so quickly here, and that's what they do not want at this early part of the race. So there's a bit of a battle there. The sprinters teams want to keep the sprinters, but also the general classification men.
You're watching stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia. Inside 35 kilometres to the finish. Dublin is decked out in pink, or the people there at least. Lots of cycling clubs out for their Sunday morning run, and they've come across the finish of a grand tour in their home capital city. Dublin, a city of, I'm told, just over 500,000 people. It is a cosmopolitan city with everybody from the world. And you can see that in evidence right at the finish line. Looking out the window now,
another crash.
Italian fan, oh dear, and another crash. A big one again, a lot of riders down. Let's hope that everybody gets up. Not what we wanted to see, and once more traffic islands, crowds getting in the way. Horgeland's held up instead of on the ground this time. Reining is down there for Orica Greenedge. Dutchman having problems holding his face. Oh, and I think that was Edvald Boasson Hagen as well for Sky. One of the Bardiani riders down. Peter Weining looking like he's really hurt himself, just holding his chin. And a problem for the Lampre rider, who is Przemysław Niemiec, and that's not good for him. Przemysław Niemiec expecting to be the leader. And in fact, there's a real problem for Orica Greenedge as well, in that Cameron Meyer is down. Doesn't look like he's feeling too good. Cameron Meyer. And a lot of shouting going on there. Just being looked at by one of the first aiders at the side of the road, hoping that everything's okay. But, of course, we're a lot closer to the finish. What happened here, Sean?
Well, we can see it just with the island. Things, you know, tightened up a little bit as they came off the roundabout. Just to wait and see. But I think a little bit of a slowdown, and then everybody else just, you know, touching together, and down they go.
And ahead of our cameras, it was 2 or 3 of the Belkin riders that went down. Everybody having to stop behind, those who couldn't stop out the way. I think most of the Astana riders who'd already been on the ground, and most of the Lampre riders, apart from the man we saw, of course, down there, who was Przemysław Niemiec, out of the way. So no double injuries for them. But Boasson Hagen was down, Weining was down. This is Cameron Meyer, and you can see he's taking a bit of skin off his knee there. Problems for Belkin. Bike change required. Cameron Meyer on the same bike, but riding away okay, and didn't look to be too comfortable. We've seen this a little too many times for our liking over the last couple of days, haven't we?
Yes, and I think you know, people are just getting more and more nervous. Crashes a lot, and when you have that, you know, if there's a little slowdown, some people just panic a bit and they try and brake very quickly, and you can, you know, just get hit from behind, and that's a lot of the time. You know, sometimes there's a slope up front, and you know, the riders just not able to slow down in time, and the wet conditions, you know, that doesn't help at all. And I think we're going to see a very nervous final with 32.7 to go. It's going to be, you know, hyper nervous here as we get into the final 20-25 kilometres.
Oh, it's been that sort of day, a sort of sleepy day back in the peloton, then something like this happens, wakes everybody up again. I think everybody just relaxing after what had happened earlier. And again, it happens once more. Bit of road furniture, the crowd, the narrow roads. We were talking and worrying about the finale. More reasons to do so here, and a whole load of chaos as everybody tries to get organised again. Thankfully, I think, again, the gap is still quite a small one, Sean, and there's not going to be any real rush to try and worry about it too much yet.
No, well, they haven't been, but I think we can see here it's starting to up the pace, and I think from here on it will be all about position, and you know, the teams just will be trying to keep their men on the front if it's a general classification or a sprinter, and that automatically pushes the pace up, and we can see here, I think it's starting to happen now, and it's going to go on from here. So hopefully again that, you know, we don't see too many crashes, but if you get involved in a crash from here on, well, then it's going to be a big effort to get back into the front of the peloton again.
Well, as I was saying before, the crash happened just out of our picture. We just saw the riders down on the floor on that shot. People from all over here. Venezuelan flag, if you look outside of our commentary box window. Support there for Yonder Godoy. There's Italian flags, as you'd expect. The Irish tricolours as well. Split in the peloton here, Sean. The racing looks like it's on at the front with them, as you say, wanting to try and keep it fast now. A lot of energy being expended behind her now. If there are any sprinters caught out in this little section of riders at the back, you can see stretched out in one line with 30 kilometres to go. It's certainly not ideal with them having to expend the energy to get back on, is it? No, it's not, but a big group as well. We can see here, you know, there's 30-40 riders trying to get back in, so you know, there's a lot of help here, a lot of teams back there. So for a sprinter, you just have to, you know, keep your cool here and allow you know, the guys who are pulling on the front here of the second group on the road to get you back in. There is sufficient amount of time to get to the front, and also it could be the general classification men. There could be some of them back there also, but it's all back together again, and I'd not be surprised if we see a repeat of, you know, another crash before we get to this finish today in Dublin. Hope you're wrong, Sean. But of course the possibilities are there. This is the breakaway. 30.9 kilometres to go. 1 minute and 31, and sun's out suddenly. Changes every couple of minutes. General classification men trying to get on back a little further back in the peloton. Things starting to join up again a little at the back. But still very strong out now, and you get the feeling, Sean, that it needs to be quick now, it needs to be stronger if we're to avoid a repeat of those accidents. Well, as you can see here, you know, it's very much grouped on the front of the peloton there, all across the road, and when you go to a roundabout, as we see there with the previous crash, you know, it just tightens up a little bit with the island in the middle of the road as you come out of the roundabout. Here we have, you know, the island in the middle of the road. They're always dangerous when the group is very, very, you know, fully packed across the road. If they're lined out a bit more and going a bit faster, well, it makes it that bit safer. Philip Dignan going back to look for the Sky Team car. See, he's going to get it in his wheel. Not a good thing having the raincoats flapping in the wind there. It's a dangerous one. He's taking a little bit of risk here at the moment. Philip Dignan certainly wouldn't want to have any unfortunate incident today, riding home in Dublin, of course. This is where he first fell in love with the sport, at that aforementioned 1998 Tour de France Grand Depart. 30 kilometres to go. 1 minute and 19 seconds. It's been a funny day today on the Giro d'Italia, and not funny in a good sense. Sinister at times with those crashes. The weather not ideal, but finally you can see how localised this is. We're riding on dry roads now. We haven't had this since the start of the Giro d'Italia. First couple of teams that went out in Belfast. So finally we can dispense with the rain capes. It's time for the racing to be on. 1 minute and 15. Breakaway doing the best to keep it going, and we can see the blue jersey of the King of the Mountains leader again on the shoulders of Martin Cialinghi. He's second in that line. Third is the man in white. He is Yonder Godoy, the Venezuelan rider of Anthony Gioccati, the Colombian champion behind him, Rubiano, and the man in the Lotto colours, the red colours, Gert Dox. The back about to take a bidon. Just 9 kilometres before he has to stop doing so, pardon me, is the Neri Sottoli rider, the young rider from the northeast of Italy, Giorgio Cecchinel. Information given behind in the car from the Directeur Sportif. On nice wide roads here. Be refreshing after what we've seen. But against all the odd roundabout, still, if, as Sean said, they're grouped up, the occasion and possibility for trouble. And once more, there is a rhythm being put on the front of the peloton, but it's not strong enough to keep everybody back. Astana making themselves visible at the front. They won't want a repeat of their accident. Michele Scarponi already on the ground. Again, the weather causing a lot of the problems, but I think the fact that the gap went down to 2 minutes with a long way to go. I think we were talking 92 kilometres to go today, and took the pace down in the peloton behind, of course, by a very consequence of that. Really didn't help things, did it, Sean?
No, and I think they're calculating their race on the breakaway out front. In the peloton, we can see, you know, the advantage when it's asked to come down in the earlier part of the stage. The peloton just slow down behind, sorry, and then when the advantage was growing out again, they just pushed it up that bit. And you know, here we can see, you know, 1:07 at 28 kilometres to go for the breakaway. You know, it was never looking that there was any possibility of the breakaway to stay away, and it looks less now at this point. And I think, you know, the wind conditions, we did see at a moment there, it seemed to be a favourable wind, but I think in general here it's a headwind. We've changed direction a bit as we come, you know, follow the coastline down, but here at the moment I reckon it has to be a headwind.
We got a shot of Luca Paolini there going back to the Katusha car. A lot of riders dispensing with what they need to dispense. We saw this at this time in the race yesterday. Astana with a rider on the side of the road, receiving some mechanical assistance. And whilst he can and whilst he's waiting, getting rid of that rain jacket, saving some time, making sure he doesn't have to come to the back again. Looked to be a front wheel chain, I think. Rubiano at the back here, back with the breakaway. Just over a minute for them. 27.5 kilometres to go. Godoy, Celinghi, Dox, Rubiano, Cecchinel, the 5-man breakaway. And Astana with riders to the front. By process of elimination, looking at that line, I think it may well have been Paolo Tiralongo who might have been at the back. It's an educated guess, having not seen him close to the front, though. He normally would be doing a lot of work, I think, at this point with Paolo Tiralongo. No, there he is on the left-hand side, pardon me. I thought he was a little far back. Main man to do a lot of the riding at this time in the race, Astana. "27 kilometres is what remains here on stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia. Last of the 3 Irish stages. Astana at the front on the left-hand side. They've had enough of problems today. And even more of a fight than usual, maybe, with the GC boys extra nervous after all these crashes. It's going to be very, very interesting in the final few kilometres. A fight to take control of the race, almost.
Yes, there's a lot of fighting on the front there just to keep control and to keep their men in a good position. And it's starting to really go fast here at the moment, and still with 26 kilometres to go. Normally you'd not see the general classification teams really get involved at the moment. They would allow that just to the sprinters teams to control the situation, but because everybody is so nervous here with what we've had, so many crashes today, we can see that, you know, it's just really getting nervous at this point.
Big job to be done by race organisers as well, people on race radio, keeping everything safe behind with the cars. There's a lot of information to pass over to these riders as they come into the Irish capital today. Another roundabout. We've got one solitary man there pointing the presence of the obstacle. Normally you get people waving flags, wouldn't you?
Yes, normally you have somebody there on the the traffic island in the middle of the road where they would have a flag, and also they blow the whistle. So you know, some of the times it's on the way into the roundabout more so maybe you need it, because when the riders get onto the roundabout they know when they're coming out that they have to be careful. But we can see the roads are, you know, quite large roads here at the moment, but again, you know, you get this this street furniture, and that's where it's always dangerous. And we can see now the peloton is stretching out, so that tells that the pace is up quite good, and it's pulling out the peloton big time.
It certainly is, and we've seen that the gap for the first time today has gone below a minute now. 53 seconds to the breakaway with 25 kilometres remaining. This is the break, and that is the welcome they've got. What a weekend here in Ireland, both north and south. What a welcome. The Giro certainly very, very grateful. The reaction in the Italian press has been amazing. They have really enjoyed coming here. The atmosphere very much living up to the Italian atmosphere of the Giro. It's what the race is famous for, after all. 48 seconds goes down to 47. Sean talked out about everything being strung out here. And there's a bit of wind about. Yannick Brajkovic, the man involved in that mechanical incident we saw a moment ago. Brajkovic, who climbed off before the end of the Tour de Romandie the other week. And the Belkin riders going back to the team car in the meantime. A lot of riding being done on the front by Manuel Quinziato and Daniel Oss. Ben Herman's up there as well. And Tinkoff Saxo wanted to keep Nicholas Roach safe too. He's had a solid start to this Giro d'Italia in Ireland, and he will not want to have or encounter any problems going into his nation's capital today. 48 seconds is the gap, but again, nothing too much to worry about here. Another thing is, if this is going to come back together and come back together nice and safely, at this pace that they're riding at the moment, to keep everything safe, nice and fast, the next task for everybody, Sean, will be to ride quick enough at the front to discourage any attacks and make things even more nervous.
Yes, I think that's going to be the problem now. Normally, in a situation, if you had dry conditions here, you know, they would be riding, and they could calculate it a bit more and allow the breakaway to hang out for, you know, a long time to the very final, maybe, you know, 5 or 10 kilometres. The way they're going at the moment, it looks like they're going to, you know, pull down this break very, very quickly now, because it's dropping off very quickly, and we can see that the peloton is getting pulled out a lot. So we can see a lot of teams up front want to, you know, take control, and that equals, you know, upping of pace.
A couple of sleeping policemen there as UCI Vikinen moves to the back, the Française des Jeux rider, the Finnish national champion. Kenny, his job to get rid of a few rain capes whilst the work is being done by Enrico Gasparotto in the centre for Astana at the front. Daniel Oss alongside him on the left-hand side in the black and red, the Italian rider. On the right-hand side, we have riders from Omega Pharma Quickstep. And Movistar and Sky right in the centre as well, with the yellow jerseys of Tinkoff Saxo at the front. It is very much the GC teams who are controlling this at the moment. Giant Shimano ready and waiting to put their sprint train into effect with the rest of the teams as we go towards the end later on. First glimpse of the Europe car riders as well. Job for Pierre Rolland for them. Arnaud Courtet there at the back on the right hand side, the Frenchman in the blue, riding for Française des Jeux. The Dutchman in the blue here, the King of the Mountains jersey, going past all that sea of pink on the side of the road. And we're into the town of Malahide. Problem for one of the Sky riders, change of bike in fact required. I think it's Ben Swift. Oh, and that's not good news for them. At this stage of the race, got to get back on very, very quickly. The Team Sky car pulls up right in front of him. He'll get as close as he's allowed to that. Ben Swift putting in a decent performance in the sprint yesterday. It was a quick enough change, I think, instead of messing about. It was just a bike change straight away.
Yes, and not a good time, because it's starting to go very fast out front, but a real quick bike change, as we can see here, and you know, he will be back in the peloton. But again, you know, every little effort, you know, you can pay for that in the end. So it's not a good time for any of the sprinters to have mechanical problems.
Well, certainly when he's trying to put the effort in against men that are the best in the world at their profession. 14 pro victories for the Yorkshireman. Most impressive of which, certainly in my opinion, came very recently at the Tour of the Basque Country. An absolutely superb win in the middle of that race. Gap is at 50 seconds here. And a stabilising of the situation. The gap was coming down very, very quickly. GC teams riding en masse at the front. Riding quick enough, but not willing to close down the gap. And perhaps a suggestion of making that balance between bringing it back and, of course, also not wanting to bring it back too early that Sean was talking about a moment ago. 21 kilometres left. Dublin is our destination on stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia. Tour of Italy's Irish leg coming to an end. We expect it to be another sprint. Can anybody beat Kittel? Will everybody be safe? The most important question, the latter of those. Swifty's getting some help. Salvatore Puccio just in front of him. In the meantime, we had problems there for Simone Ponzi as well at the back. Just being helped back himself. Simone Ponzi, one of the faster men in the Neri Sottoli team. Their sprinter is Francesco Chicchi. Ponzi could be a man to help Chicchi towards the end. We really didn't see Chicchi putting too much of a challenge up yesterday. Can Sky get Swift back? And we get a first image of Tyler Farrar today as well. Blue and white image of the Garmin jersey. For Tinkoff Saxo, it's all about keeping their leader safe. He's placed 4th position. Nicholas Roach with that black rain jersey on. Here at the back, Yunder Godoy. Big learning curve for him today, 21 years of age. 2nd professional season. He had all those passport worries the other day. This time, of course, he's out on the road doing his job. And what sort of things can you learn from a young rider being in a breakaway, Sean, on a Grand Tour?
Well, I suppose, first of all, you find out, you know, what sort of stamina you have when you're out there all day. In the end, you know, how well you support that. And there is some riders, you know, who are really strong, challenging for Anton. When he gets into the breakaway, we did see him yesterday being out there contesting the sprints. He still went off on his own there. So, you know, he's a real, you know, a real powerhouse, and that's something you learn from a young bike, from a young rider. And you know, the distance here as well, 200+ kilometres yesterday. When you're out there for that, almost that distance, well then, that's part of the learning curve. And then, you know, how to relay each other up front, although that's something you can do from a very early age. It's all about building your stamina, really. That's you know, the advantage in a breakaway. And depending on what sort of a rider you are, if you're a rider who, you know, is not able to win in the sprint, well then you have to try and get away in the breakaways to get some chance of maybe staying away, getting a stage, or if not, getting the exposure that the team and yourself need to do in a big race when it's you know, live TV.
19 kilometres remain. 4 hours in the saddle now on stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia. 50 seconds the gap. Once more, things start to bunch up a little, and nobody really wanting to set the fast pace that we know they can, Sean. Not yet, anyway. No,
I think we're still outside, you know, that zone. 18 kilometres to go, and you don't want to, you know, to really push a very, very fast pace, because then you're going to pay for that later on. You cannot keep that going, and it's all about just trying to, you know, hold position up front. And you can see that, you know, there's teams, 3, 4, 5 riders together and trying to stay on the front end of the peloton. And when you look at the run in here, you know, the final 5 kilometres, we have a lot of technical stuff. There's about 6 corners in the final 5k, so they're all aware of that. And you know, they look at their route manual, and I think the director sportives, and you can see that nervousness is starting to start there in the peloton.
Nervousness to excitement there. Australians happy with the pink jersey of their main man Michael Matthews at the moment. He's been down on the ground today. Didn't look too much of a problem in terms of the injuries that he might have picked up. He'll be hoping to be able to contest the sprint, and who knows, maybe even make a surprise and beat the man who's just about the fastest man in the world at the minute, Marcel Kittel. So Marco Frapporti there. There he is back at the car. Man working for Androni Giocattoli. 4 victories in his career. 3rd Giro d'Italia for him. Remember that Androni Giocattoli, one of the team's invited to the Giro d'Italia because they won the Coppa Italia last year, the circuit of Italian races. Automatic wild card to the Giro d'Italia is a good incentive, isn't it, on that circuit? It ensures that the youth development side and certainly the national calendar is hotly contested, Sean.
Yes, well, I think any of the races in Italy, they're always hotly contested. You know, going back many years ago, the Italian races were always, you know, always a good race program, and you know, any of the races. And I think now, you know, with the teams, with the televised races, they're, you know, they're of so importance, and especially like if you're a sponsor which is very much concentrated in that country where they want a lot of exposure, well then, you know, the local events which are televised are very important.
Portmarnock, coastal suburban town in Dublin County. There you go, the Martello Tower. Been around since the Napoleonic age. 17 kilometres for the race, though. 42 seconds now, and we still see pink lining the roads throughout our route today that's taken us from Armagh in Northern Ireland to the Irish capital, Dublin. Tinkoff Saxo in their yellow on the left-hand side, BMC in the red and black, and at the back here, the rider for Team Katusha is Gianpaolo Caruso, who hit the deck yesterday. Gian Shimano. They've got their main man in the red jersey at the minute, Marcel Kittel. That's Albert Tima. 1 minute 23 down in the overall, but that's not something that he'll be thinking about in this Giro d'Italia. 16.5 Ks. Big right turn here. Just want everybody to stay on their bikes. The good news is the road is actually starting to dry out a little here at the finish, and as you can see on the course, Sean, it's very much the same. Yes,
it's the first time they've got the roads as dry as we have at this moment, and it looks, you know, it looks good for the moment here at the finish as well. It's drying out quite quickly, so hopefully it continues in that way. And if it does, we should have pretty close to dry roads, and everybody will be welcoming that.
16 Ks to go. 36 seconds now. Gasparotto obviously feeling good enough to do a lot of the riding, which is good news for the rest of his Giro d'Italia, I think. Tiralongo, we mentioned previously, again using and expending a heck of a lot of energy at the front to keep things safe, and it's all starting to be a little more stretched out now, and we can see that quite clearly with the statistics and the numbers, because we've lost 15 seconds from the advantage just like that.
Yes, we can see it is just starting to line out. The riders are almost in a single file here, and further back in the peloton certainly that's the case, and you know, it tells us that the pace is just creeping up all the time, and we're getting to that point now where, you know, there's been a lot of action, but there's a lot more here on the front of the peloton, and it'll not be too far off until we see some of the sprinters teams starting to get involved as well, and you know, trying to take control on the front.
We certainly do, but I think as we see the pink jersey of Michael Matthews, one to watch out for in the sprint. We also saw Alessandro Petacchi, just as we saw yesterday, taking a bit of the wind there, doing a lot of the work, the first man from Megafono Quickstep. Sean, as a veteran and a man who knows the sport very well, does that suggest to you that he's perhaps not thinking of the sprint here, more of thinking of keeping Rigoberto Urán safe?
Yes, I think it's certainly just working for the team lead or for the general classification, because normally if a sprinter is going to do something in the stage end, well then it would be the other way around, where there'd be at least 2 or 3 teammates in front of him, and you know, take him to the front.
Well, inside 15 kilometres to go on stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia. It's a novel way to show off your patriotism. Something that they'll remember, I think. And a stranger looking the other way, let's say.
Hello,
Paris. A little fine slapped on to Mr. Cilinki tomorrow. 14.4 Ks to go. 19 seconds is the gap now. Petacchi on the right-hand side doing a lot of the work. We can see the red jersey of Marcel Kittel inside of that group of riders. 13 seconds. They can see them up the road, and we're on our way into Dublin itself.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
We're here for the motocross. Hello?
Hello.
13.9 Ks.
Say that again, Robert.
Hello.
Hello,
Okay,
hello,
plenty of
hello.
traffic
Can you hear
islands
yourself,
here.
Rob? Go on, go again. Say something.
Hello. That's really loud, Jack. That's really
sorry.
loud.
I can't hear you very
13.7 Ks. And of course, this is what's happening behind. A few traffic islands dodged. One level crossing, thankfully. The barriers were up and open. No stopping and letting the breakaway through. This is everybody together. And of course, just 10 seconds now up to the breakaway. Again, a couple of those islands unsignalled, unguarded, and it's quite a surprise, Sean, because a lot of people from the Giro d'Italia, the voluntary police force, the Carabinieri, the retired ones who accompany the race, are here helping the Irish police, both north and south of the border, and you'd expect every single one of those islands to be signalled and whistled and flagged.
Yes, it is surprising that they're not signalled, especially in the final. When you get into the final, you know, 15, 20 kilometres, especially when the action is really kicking off. Surprising that, you know, they're not being manned there, and they look quite dangerous there as well with the peloton, you know, and we're going to see more of that as we get closer to the finish.
Closer to the finish we do get. 12.8 kilometres. A look behind from Yonder Godoy there, the Venezuelan rider in the white and blue for Anthony Giocattoli. He knows that it's almost over for them. Mass of peloton behind, and once again the pace slows, Sean. A lot of riders bunching up at the front. Luckily the roads are nice and wide here, but very, very nervous every time we're seeing that at the minute.
Yeah, it's scary at the moment when you see the front of the peloton
de la
here.
Reina
And
in
it's
Spain. We are ready to go,
you know,
with
it's
the
definitely
second
slowing up, and when you see
MXGP
the
race
breakaway still with just over 12 kilometres to go, it's not a safe situation for the riders here.
Problem 38 is the rider from Bardiani. It's Nicola Ruffoni. Quick change of that Cipollini bike very, very quickly, but try and get back on if you can, because the pace again will be upped in just a moment's time. Break is about to go. 12.2 kilometres to go. Just being let hang out there for the moment. But again, we've described time and time again today that creates its own problems. That certainly does create its own problems. Now, problem here for Francesco Chicchi. Not the sort of problems that Neri Sottoli wants. He is their sprinter, remember. Former quick-step rider who is expected to get results for Neri Sottoli at some time during this Giro d'Italia. Very, very hard when he's up against the likes of Marcel Kittel and Nasser Bouhanni, but he's a fast man on his day. Got to expend a bit of energy, and I think he'll be thankful that they're not going full gas at the minute in the peloton.
Yes, but it looks like he had a problem with his shoe there. Not a good time for that, and even though it's slowed down quite a lot, you know, you have to get through the peloton here, and as we can see, it's, you know, the road is fully packed with riders. To, you know, to get through, it takes a bit of an effort, so hopefully he can, you know, get back in here and make it at the front, because he is the other man who will be hoping to get a result with today.
11.5 Ks, still the five-man breakaway. Hang on, some hard riding being done on the front by Cecchinel. They know in their heart of hearts that there's absolutely no chance here. It's all about the hesitation behind in the bunch at the minute. These are the problems with the shoes. In fact, it looks as though the cleat isn't working. He's going to have his shoe sellotaped onto the pedal. In fact, the cleat looks like it's connected. I wonder if the back has fallen off there.
No, I think it's the ratchet system is not working, and they're just going to tape it up. But it's not a good thing, especially when you're going for a sprint here. It's going to be a big handicap for him.
Again, if he moves about, has to stand up, move onto the pedals, get back in the seat. Again, that could just come off at any time, certainly with the jerks and the power he's expected to exert on the pedals. Rubiano looks behind. I think he might be the first to think about sitting up here. He moves across. But there's still no big chase on. Everybody lined out at the minute. Nobody taking the responsibility that you might expect. We've talked about the possibility for rogue attacks, and that will create even more nervousness as things come to the end. Cecchinel still trying to get people to roll on and through. Flicks his arm, looks behind, waves the arm. Cipollini, I think, is half thinking about giving this one up as well. Moves over to the side, and the break begins to die a slow death. And for now, Cipollini back to the back. Not quite riding on and through. It's still Cecchinel doing all the riding on the front, but seems as though the gap has increased again. 18 seconds. It's a rather bizarre run into Dublin today.
Yes, I think it has to be a headwind conditions, and that's the reason that the peloton just are slowing it down a little bit and just leaving that the rest of the breakaway hang out there. It's surprising when you look at 20-25 kilometers to go plus. You would expect this breakaway to be cut much earlier, but they just knock it off. As we can see here, they're just slowing down and leave them hang out there as long as they can.
Rubiano just asking the television motorbike to get on with its business. He will go back to the peloton. And a little wave to those at home as well. Rubiano is the first of the break to be swallowed up. 14 seconds at the minute as they go through 10 kilometers to go. Another rider hits the front. This time it's Godoy. Cecchinelli have been doing all the work. A look behind, I think both Cialinghi and Dox can't wait for this to end. They're not riding on the front at the minute. Keep looking behind. How long have we got? Can I pull off yet? There's UCI Vaikkonen, who's got his number showing now, the Finnish champion. And the rider 126 is Jose Rada of Movistar. Through come the peloton. Megaphon, a quick step on the right. Belkin on the left. Smattering of different coloured jerseys in the middle. Great atmosphere here at the finish. Inside 10 kilometers to go then on stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia. We had a break of 5. One man has disappeared in the last couple of kilometers from that. That is Rubiano, the Colombian rider. We still have Godoy, Cialinghi, Dox and Cecchinelli. On the right-hand side, Godoy in the white and blue, Cecchinelli in the luminous yellow. In the red, get Dox, the Belgian rider. And right at the back, the current king of the mountains who'll be holding on for the jersey. First good few stages of the Giro d'Italia, I have to say then, for Belkin. They've come away with a jersey. Yes,
well, they've had a lot of exposure here. Holding a jersey, of course, is very important for the team. Talenji has been out in the breakaway, so they've got a great start to this Giro.
Cialinghi, 37 years of age, blue jersey wearer. He will wear it on stage 4 when we resume racing in Bari. Cecchinelli then decides to stay out for a little bit longer. It's what we want, attacking riding. It's exactly what we knew Neri Sottoli would bring to this race. They have a lot of faith to repay the organisers. We said this yesterday. Luca Scinto was allowed back into the race after all the problems last year. Here he is with his young rider Giorgio Cecchinelli from Vittorio Veneto, pumping on the pace and keeping things going for just that little bit longer. In the meantime, again, hat off to Cialinghi, Dox and Godoy, who've ridden well in not an easy conditions to ride in today. It's not been a nice day out for them. Well, Cialinghi will take the blue jersey at the end of it. This is the moment that Cecchinelli attacked. A quick look and a quick word from Dox behind, and there was no response, Sean. Nothing left in the tank.
No, I think everybody is feeling the effects from being out in the breakaway, and you know, they were marking each other for quite a while there, and somebody was going to push on, and we can see the bunch. It's amazing the way the bunch is just so grouped together here. Nobody wanting to take up the pace, and just under 8 kilometers to go.
Well, it's quite a strange sight to see, certainly in modern racing, with the sprint trains and the way they take control of the race in the last few kilometers. Perhaps a side effect of all the nervousness that we're seeing around the peloton in these opening stages. Everybody just wants to get today over and done with, I think.
Yes, but the surprising one is at this point you would expect them to be pushing on the pace. There'd be some team that would commit themselves and keep the pace quite high to get out of a situation where you have a very big packed peloton of riders, and we have that majorly here at the moment. So hopefully there's not somebody who touch wheels, because if they do go down here, well, we're going to have a big pile up.
Giant team just coming to the front of the peloton slightly and finally, and that means that the pace is just going to come on here. I think they finally decided that this break is going to finish. Cecchinelli is going to be reeled in, and I think, Sean, we're just starting to see the first few instances of the pace increasing. Yes. Giant on the left-hand side, bottom me.
And we need a team to do that, I suppose, to take the danger out of it a bit here. And we're coming to the point now where we're getting into the final, the 5 kilometres of 7. There's quite a few technical corners, so the teams will be getting aware of that. And you can see Belkin here, Giant, a lot of them starting to push up pace on front.
This is where the director sportives are very important. This is where race radio is important, isn't it? Shouting in the ear, now's the time, boys. This is where we ride on the front. We've seen it all in the documentaries when we've seen HTC following the Tour and chasing the dream a few years ago. Exactly what happens at this point in the race. People are told to ride. This is why riders say that radios helped their safety. And I think we're going to see that, as you say, we come in those final 5 kilometres and things get a little bit more technical.
Yes, we will have to see it now. You know, we're getting so close to the finish, and there's somebody going to, you know, really get nervous. The teams are going to get nervous. Not alone the riders being given orders by the director sportives, but the riders themselves as well. They will feel that they're going to, you know, start to get crowded out here, and that will, I think, we'll have to see, you know, the pace up again, and I think that's what's is about to happen at the moment.
Here we are with BMC on the left-hand side alongside Lotto coming to the front. Lotto will be riding for Kenny de Haas today. Astana just looking to stay safe. You've seen Gasparotto doing a lot of wheel. Oh, we've had a problem. A big, big problem. And guess who? No, we saw Dan Martin the other day. Nico Roach has had a flat. And I think we will now see the whole Tinkoff Saxo team en masse come back to try and escort him up. Does not want to lose any time here. No, and we're coming to the point, as I mentioned, you know, that final 5 kilometres where it gets a bit technical. So if you're, you know, further back in the peloton, you can find yourself, you know, in a group that loses contact, and then to get back to the front of the peloton. But we can see immediately, you know, Tinkoff Saxo just sending a number of riders back, and it's still going to be, you know, a bit of an effort for them, but they should have enough time, sufficient time to get back to the front of affairs. Crest's Anke Sorensen was the man who first dropped back. Climber from Tinkoff Saxo, Nicholas Roach with a back wheel punch at just the worst minute. And again, if the pace would have been picked up here and they would have missed out, lose a few seconds, all that good work they did in the team time trial will be undone straight away. BMC at the front, Cadel Evans visible in his World Championship bands on the sleeves of his red and black jersey there. Here are Giant Shimon on the left-hand side, Garmin in the middle running for Tyler Farrer in the blue, and on the right-hand side, Omega Pharma Quickstep trying to keep Uran safe on her way into Dublin. Five kilometres to go on stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia. The pace has picked up. There's all sorts of nervousness. They've had problems, crashes today. Biggest name on the ground, well, Michele Scarponi. We've also had Edvald Boasson Hagen hit the floor. Lots of names having problems today on the way into Dublin. Suddenly the pace is on. It's been slow at times. The weather has been awful. And in the last few minutes, Nicholas Roach has had the misfortune of having a back wheel punch at just the wrong moment. Tinkoff Saxo attempting to escort him back into the peloton. Less than 5Ks to go. It's been a funny one today, Sean. Yes, it has been. It's been a difficult day for everybody. I think the wet conditions, and that's probably having a bearing as well of the pace here in the end. A lot of the riders are, feeling the effects of that. Being in the wet conditions yesterday, again today, the legs are very heavy, probably sore muscles, and the teams are just waiting, and we've not seen a final here in the final 15 or 20 kilometres where we would see a much faster pace. That hasn't been the case today. Sean, you've got the course map in front of you. You've had a look at the final few kilometres. Just reminding viewers what's coming up here. It gets quite technical. The first of those big bends right now with Cannondale in the green on the front for Viviani. Yes, and we have a number of quite... we have a left one, a left again, and then we come down by the along by the quays, and that's where it gets a bit technical at the end. You have a very sharp left again, and then a right. So, there's a lot of cornering here to be done, a lot of, very, very tight ones, and luckily the road has dried out a bit, but it's not totally dry. There are these wet patches, as we can see here, so that is going to be a very, very important one. It's going to be one of these tricky finals, but I think the conditions, at least it's not pouring rain, it makes it that little bit safer. Well, I think the Irish fans can breathe a sigh of relief, because we're seeing lots of Tinkoff Saxo jerseys in the middle of the peloton at the minute, which suggests that Nico Roach is back in the group. On the left-hand side, Giant Shimano. On their heels, the men in the black. Trek Factory Racing, 3.5 kilometres to go. Control of this has been taken by Cannondale, just as it was yesterday at sort of this part in the proceedings. They're riding twofold, really. Ivan Bassa wants to stay upright and safe, and for today, they would like Elia Viviani to challenge Marcel Kittel, who is behind. Of course, he's riding for Giant Shimano, the Dutch team that have those white and black and blue jerseys. But today, remember that he is in the Maglia Rossa, the red jersey, the points jersey of the Giro d'Italia. You can see he's third in line there behind those giant jerseys, in a great position at the minute. 3 kilometres to go. Kittel, Sean, final word from you about what might happen in terms of the big boys. Can anybody challenge Kittel if he gets into that final 300 metres? It's slightly uphill.
I think if he gets into the position, you know, in the top 3 or 4, then he is unbeatable. He showed that yesterday again, and you know, we're into this here, inside the final 3 kilometres to go. We have taken this right-hander. Now we go down along the quays, and then we take a left to left, and then a sharp right again, and we're into the, you know, the final run-in, and this final chicane is going to be very interesting.
Now, an interesting little thing there is that Alessandro Petacchi, not anywhere near his leader Rigoberto Urán, looks just to be in there and surfing the wheels of the sprinters. I wonder how good he feels today. He is the only real sprinter here who can challenge Michael Matthews' pink jersey on the day. Red jersey of the points leader at the moment, the winner of the stage yesterday, the birthday boy today, Marcel Kittel, with 2.2 kilometres to go. He's in the red jersey in 4th place at the minute, just on his wheel, ready and waiting. Alessandro Petacchi behind him, again on his own, Tyler Farrer of Garmin. On the right-hand side, Sky are riding, so you expect Ben Swift to be back ready and safe. It's Bernie Eisel on that side in the black and blue for Sky. He's the Austrian rider, Sky, with 3 riders in front, ready to do a good job for Ben Swift, and the man who's looked set to lead out Ben Swift, Edvald Boasson-Hagen. The road's quite narrow here, and there's a big moment coming up, Sean, in just a couple of 100 metres time. 2 big left-hand turns.
Yes, 2 tight left-handers, left over the bridge and then left again, and then we go on for a short bit, another right-hander, and you can see here they're all aware that this is a very important part of the run-in.
Frances de Jure riding for Nasser Bouhanni, get riders in. You just saw the pain face there of Bernie Eisel, really trying to get Sky to the front. They know how important these turns are. Coming up right now, 1.4 kilometres to go. There is a huge fight to get to the front here, Sean. Everybody's obviously read the road book. They've had their swan years driving. Here we go. Let's hope everybody stays upright. First corner taken. Another one as they'll accelerate out of it into the bend again. This is where the road narrows slightly. Cannondale still at the front, Sky just behind them, Giant Shimano there as well, and the odd sprinter on their own with no team around them. This is a decent ride from Cannondale for both Basso and Viviani at the minute. Inside the last kilometre, big right-hander here, Sean. What they have to worry about inside this last case, this horrible chicane.
Yes, safety through this right-hander, and now we come to the chicane, and it's going to be, you know, a very fast pace as we see Cannondale, you know, really taking control and holding on well here at the moment. With Sky, we can see Boasson-Hagen, or that is Swift, in a good position. Swift
is in a great position, just behind Boasson-Hagen. Cannondale have Viviani set, of course, Nasser Bouhanni as well. The peloton really stretched out here, and what a job Cannondale have done. I can tell you the perfectly placed man, though, still is Marcel Kittel in that red jersey. Look out for this chicane. Boasson-Hagen trying to take it on. For the minute, it's safe. Let's hope it's that way. All the main contenders are through and safe. Michael Matthews is there in the pink jersey as well. At the minute, it is Boasson-Hagen inside the last 350 metres, and this is where the road really starts to kick up. Boasson-Hagen leading it out. It is Viviani on his wheel. They're ready to go. No lead-out man for him. Swift on the left-hand side in the black goes there for Sky. Ben Swift on his wheel there is Marcel Kittel. It is Swift against Kittel. It's Kittel that does it again. Happy birthday, Marcel Kittel. 2 from 2. He wins the 3rd stage of the Giro d'Italia, and Kittel just about tied it right for the 2nd day running. This time ahead of Swift. What a day. What a birthday. 26 years of age. Very happy 26 years indeed, and fully well-deserved. All the smiles on the faces of the giant riders. Most important thing yet again, everybody stayed safe, but very, very good win.
Yes, a magnificent victory by Kittel again. You could see in the final chicane he was in about 8th or 9th position, and you know, just so relaxed, not panicking at all, and you know, when he just takes up the sprint, he has just the acceleration, and we could see Viviani there from Cannondale, after doing all the work, he got 3rd place.
All the work, I think everything has been taken out of those big muscles on the giant frame of the 26-year-old. 4 years as a professional, already a very big name in the history of sprinting. Stage wins on all 3 Grand Tours. That slightly uphill, we're talking 1-stroke 2% in the final few hundred metres. He had to come, as you say, from around 8th position there. Skylighted that fairly well with Boasson-Hagen laying it off for Ben Swift. It has taken everything out of Marcel Kittel, and one of the best wins I think we've seen him perform. Here's the sprint again, Sean.
Yes, as we can see here, Swift taking it up after Boasson-Hagen leading through the chicane. A real good job by Sky and by Boasson-Hagen, but unfortunately Swift, getting very close. Kittel coming in the final meters, but again, Kittel proven to be the fastest man at the moment.
Apollonio, I think, coming into 4th place there. Viviani in 3rd behind Swift. There's Kittel going off the wheel of Swift in the red jersey on the left-hand side. The big German rider up against the Brit from Yorkshire. The Italian track rider, Elia Viviani, in the green, coming in 3rd place. Good work for the Italian. Apollonio. After that, we were looking at Buani. And then Boasson-Hagen, Nizzolo out of it from quite a fair few 100 metres out. An excellent victory for Marcel Kittel. Just too strong. They had to work hard there, Sean, because he was a couple of wheel lengths back of Swift. He wasn't exactly in the perfect slipstream, was he?
No, we could see there at 200 metres out, 150 metres out, he seemed to be 4 lengths off Swift, and then he just put the power down, and he just closed that gap, and he had to fight hard to get over Swift, because again, Boasson-Hagen, Sky, they really did a good job, and Swift, I think, doing everything perfectly, but the man in the Pines jersey just too strong for everybody.
At the moment, there's Marcel Kittel, and then there are the rest. Swift in 2nd place, a very good performance from him. Elia Viviani improving to 3rd from his 4th yesterday. Apollonio there with Buani making up the top 5. Boasson-Hagen, who did the lead out for Swift, in 6th. Ferrari 7th, Abila into 8th, Nizzolo on 9th. Tyler Farrer for a 2nd day in succession, coming inside the top 10. Red jersey, finally a smile. Some deep breaths required. Sean describing how difficult that sprint was. Such a gigantic win. 41.7 kilometers per hour, the average speed in the end. A fairly average day in terms of the speed. Slow to average, we would say. Lots of problems, and as well as the win, I think we must be very thankful that there were no more accidents on the way in. The roads just having enough time to dry up a little. In the meantime, behind, the celebrations begin. And how does that feel in a team? Even though you're not the one to take the win, after having done the work all the way, it's nice to have the reward for everybody. Well,
it's great to have the award, and when you get to stage win in the team, and it goes on for Giant Shimano with Kittel, and everybody is happy in the camp. But looking at the team of Kittel, they haven't been doing a great job. When you consider what they have been doing here, they haven't been riding in the last 20 kilometers trying to close down the break, because it's a long ways ahead, and still in the final kilometers they get crowded out. Same as we see yesterday happened once again today.
Michael Matthews keeps the pink jersey ahead of Alessandro Petacchi. 8 seconds the difference. Daniel Oss moves to 3rd place. Luke Durbridge in 4th with Santa Romita in 5th, the Italian champion. That is how it stands. Michael Matthews went down on the day, still with a few problems, but stays leader of the Giro d'Italia. Stage winner, Marcel Kittel.